In this video, I'm going to go through 27 of my favorite pool lessons from past and new videos that will dramatically improve your pool game in one session. We're going to cover everything from breaking to fundamentals to bridges to 8-ball drills, speed control, and much more. And by the time you're done going through every pool lesson in this video, I guarantee you're going to be a stronger player. And throughout the video, we're going to have extra tips and tricks that will really supercharge your game. So if you're ready, let's get started. If you study top players, you'll notice that the majority of them usually begin their stance by placing their grip hand and back foot on the shot line. Now when they come down on the shot, their bridge hand and not their grip hand controls the direction of the cue stick. A mistake league players sometimes make is to come down on the shot too quickly before placing their grip hand on the shot line. Now they have to use both their grip hand and bridge hand to adjust the cue stick while down on the shot. A good practice drill to work on is to place your back foot and grip hand on the shot line while standing. Once they're on the shot line, relax your stroking arm and grip hand. Place your bridge hand on the shot line and do your best to follow the shot line with your bridge hand until it reaches the table. Practice this a few times until it starts to become natural. If done properly, this way of setting up helps ensure that your back foot, grip hand, bridge hand, and cue stick are all on the shot line. And this leads to another common error that players make. Here I've come down on the shot, and once I'm down on the shot, I begin the aiming process. Low-level players and good players who have become inconsistent should change how they perform this part of the setup if they want to pocket more balls. One of the reasons players miss easy shots, or shots in general, is that they don't properly align themselves before coming down on the table, and begin aiming before properly adjusting their cue stick. This usually leads to inconsistent shot making. Without realizing it, the player's alignment may be slightly off, which means when they are aiming, they will have to increase grip pressure to help align the cue stick. For example here, I have proper alignment when down on the table, which means I can use light pressure when performing the stroke, even without aiming, since the cue stick is properly aligned. This time I have improper cue stick alignment, which means if I use light pressure to stroke the cue stick without aiming, I end up missing the shot. So if I wanted to pocket this ball with improper alignment, I would have to use more grip pressure and adjust the cue stick while aiming. While this will work, over time, especially when the player gets tired or nervous, this way of pocketing balls will usually result in inconsistent play. When a top player comes down on a table, their back foot, head, grip hand, bridge hand, and cue stick are all on the shot line. This is the first part of the aiming process. Players that play too quickly or just don't take the time to lock in on the shot line may only be partially lined up when they come down on the table. For example, on this shot, my back foot, head, and bridge hand are on the shot line, but my grip hand and cue stick are just off the shot line. If I consider this an easy shot, I may just go through the motions of aiming, not knowing my alignment is off, which may cause a miss. What I would recommend for new players and for players who are struggling is to pause the tip of the cue ball when they first come down on the shot. If you created the proper alignment, the shot should be lined up correctly, and then you can begin aiming. If it looks like the aim is off, then stand back up and create your alignment again. Keep pausing the tip of the cue ball to check your alignment until it looks like you're consistently lining up on each shot correctly. And the last error players make when coming down on the shot is not keeping the head along the shot line. Without realizing it, a player's head has a tendency to move off the shot line when coming down on the table. There are two reasons for this. Number one, the player is coming down on the table too quickly before they can lock in on the shot line. And number two, their eyes aren't locked in on one focal point. If your eyes are moving around when your head is descending, there's a high likelihood that your head will slightly shift off the shot line. Once you place your head on the shot line while standing, keep your focus on the contact point as you come down on the table. And when you practice this, slow down your head movement as you come down on the table. And at the same time, keep your focus on the contact point. Keeping the head on the shot line while coming down on the shot takes practice, so make sure you put in the time needed to make this a natural part of your game. A good practice drill is to throw balls out on the table and pocket each ball using proper alignment. When you come down on the shot, you won't be using aiming strokes. If it looks like your alignment is off by just a hair, you can make a subtle adjustment using your bridge hand. If it's off by quite a bit, then stand back up and reset your alignment. Keep your grip pressure light. The goal of this drill is to allow your alignment to pocket the balls. When players first learn the game of pool, they generally create two types of bridges, the fist bridge and this version of the open bridge. And this is the type of bridge they use when they're on the rail. But it's important that if they want to progress in the game of pool, that they learn more advanced bridges. So we'll first start with the closed bridge. When creating this bridge, we're going to first separate these three fingers for stability. Next, we'll place the thumb near the middle joint of the middle finger. This creates a groove for the cue stick to glide on. Now we'll wrap the index finger around the stick like this. The thumb will be pointing in the direction of the shot. So holding the bridge hand like this would be incorrect. This closed bridge is a little more snug than the previous bridge. In this bridge, we'll first place our thumb against the side of the forefinger like this. Now we'll press both fingers against the middle finger. Once again, we're going to separate these three fingers for stability. This type of bridge is very snug, so you may want to use powder or a pull glove to reduce friction. This is an excellent bridge to learn since it does help keep the cue on the shooting line. This type of closed bridge is sometimes used for the draw stroke, since it allows for a more level cue stick. In this bridge, we're going to create it similar to the previous bridge, except this time we won't be pressing these two fingers against the middle finger. Instead, we're going to be resting the thumb against the table bed. Here is the standard open bridge. When players first make the open bridge, they tend to keep these fingers together. The key to this bridge is separating the fingers for stability. Either like this, where all the fingers are separated, or like this, where these two fingers are touching. Another mistake beginners sometimes make is not pressing the thumb against the bridge hand. Make sure when creating this bridge that the thumb is firmly pressed against the bridge hand. This is the raised open bridge. This type of bridge is used when you need to strike the cue ball above center. When creating this bridge, you'll be pulling your fingers toward the base of the hand, which raises the cue stick. This is a bridge that is used quite often. It's quick to make and when properly done, works very well. Although it's not a bridge that is as stable as a bridge that is planted on the table bed. In this bridge, we're going to keep two fingers bent backward, which will act like springs to move the bridge up and down. Here is the tripod bridge using a closed bridge. In this version, we'll keep one finger back for support. This tripod bridge can be created using both versions of the closed bridge. Here's a bridge that many players perform incorrectly. In this bridge, we're going to be shooting over the 12 ball. And there are two things that players generally do wrong on this kind of bridge. Number 1, they tend to make their bridge too far away from the obstacle ball. And number 2, they create an unstable bridge with no back support. This type of bridge may sometimes move during the stroking process. Before getting down on the table, it's important that you make your tripod bridge. Make sure you have one finger back for support. Now as you get down on the table, keep your cue as level as possible. Use the space in your bridge hand to move the bridge close to the obstacle ball. Once the bridge hand is in place, you can begin the aiming process. This is the same type of bridge that you're going to be using for masse and jump shots. As you stand taller, use your fingers to apply pressure on the table bed. The back of the hand will start to angle upwards. This is the bridge to use when the obstacle ball only slightly inhibits our normal bridge. In this case, we would bend our ring finger back and slide the space between the little finger middle finger around the ball. In this bridge, we have to shoot over a ball using the rail bridge. Before getting down on the table, we're going to bend these two fingers back while making the open bridge. Now as we place a bridge on the rail, we can use these two fingers to raise or lower the bridge depending on how much height we need. This is the closed bridge version of the elevated rail bridge. In this bridge, the ring finger is bent backward to help stabilize the bridge. It may help to press downward to help secure the bridge. Here is a version of the previous bridge, except in this situation the bridge hand is near the edge of the rail. So in this case we'll be placing our ring finger against the back of the table. The pressure areas are the little finger, middle finger, and the front of the ring finger. One common bridge you'll see many amateurs make is this kind of bridge where you're placing the shaft of the cue between two fingers, holding it in place. While this bridge will work, it's not a common bridge you'll see professionals use. When the cue ball is close to the rail, you want to make a slightly more secure bridge to ensure the stick doesn't move during the stroking process. Place the cue stick on the rail along the shooting line. Now place your bridge hand on the rail alongside the shaft, like this. Now wrap your index finger around the shaft, securing it in place. The main pressure points are these three areas here, and when done correctly, this type of bridge is extremely secure. In this example, the cue ball is closer to the cushion, and when this happens, we have to move the bridge hand farther back on the rail. While standing up, create an open bridge like this. Now bend the forefinger downward. So now when we place a bridge hand on the rail, we're going to press the forefinger against the side of the table to lock the bridge in place. Now the cue ball is a little closer to the cushion. If you don't need to strike the cue ball hard, you can use the previous bridge. But if you need more power, which requires a longer backstroke, then you'll create this bridge where the tips of the fingers are pressed against the rail for support. The little finger applies pressure against the back of the rail. So when shooting at an angle like this, when the cue ball is frozen on the rail, the standard rail bridge won't work. And using the previous bridge of pressing our finger against the rail isn't quite as secure due to the angle. In this situation, you would create an open bridge but flatten it as much as possible. You'll be pressing this part of the bridge hand on the rail to create stability. Here the cue ball is close to the corner pocket. In this situation, you would use the rail bridge we discussed earlier. Now the cue ball is a little farther away from the corner pocket. In this case, you would create this kind of bridge where these three fingers grip the inside of the pocket. You'll be applying a small amount of pressure as you secure the bridge in place. In this situation, the cue ball is near the side pocket. If you don't need to strike the cue ball firmly, you can create a normal tripod bridge. If you need a little more room to create a longer backstroke, move the bridge back and place the back finger against the inside of the side pocket. And when making any type of bridge and pull, it's often a good idea to apply pressure downward with the fingers to really stabilize the bridge. In this situation, the shaft of our cue goes along the point of the side pocket. In this situation, you can make two kinds of bridges. The first bridge is this bridge where we are placing the forefinger against the inside of the point of the cushion, and the middle finger goes under the front of the cushion. Slightly press the forefinger against the cushion to stabilize the bridge. The other bridge is the rail bridge we discussed earlier, except this time we won't be using our thumb to help secure the cue. In this bridge, we'll be pressing our bent thumb against the inside of the cushion. We'll then place the shaft of the cue against the middle finger and this part of the bridge hand. Now we're going to wrap the index finger around the cue. In this example, the cue ball is once again near the cushion and there isn't enough room to create a standard bridge on the table bed. In this case, we'll rest about half of our bridge hand on the cushion while gripping the point of the side pocket with the ring finger. You'll need to apply a small amount of pressure with your ring finger against the cushion. You can slide the index and middle finger up and down to control the height of the bridge. In this scenario, there isn't enough room to create a table bed bridge, and the point of the pocket is preventing a standard rail bridge. In this case, we'll create an open bridge pressing the side of our index finger against the cushion. The other fingers will be spread out, creating a stable bridge. You'll be applying a small amount of pressure with your index finger against the inside of the point of the pocket. When the cue ball is next to the cushion, there are a few bridges you'll need to learn. In this situation, the cue ball is near the rail and there isn't enough room to create my normal bridge. In this case, I would create a bridge that uses both the table bed and the cushion. We're going to be resting this part of the bridge hand on the cushion. Here is the open bridge version of this shot. When making this bridge, we'll keep these fingers together for support. We're also going to keep this finger bent downward to help support the bridge. Now the cue ball is closer to the rail. In this case, we'll be keeping most of our bridge hand on the rail while keeping one finger on the table bed for support. In this situation, we have an awkward angle on our object ball, and there isn't enough cushion to create a standard rail bridge, and the cue ball is too far away to shoot it from the side rail. In this case, you'll be making the standard open bridge, but for this bridge, we'll be lowering the thumb so we can slide the bridge under the cushion. Now we're going to be aiming this groove between the thumb and finger toward the object ball. This is the groove the stick will slide on when shooting. When making this bridge under the cushion, make sure it's nice and stable before shooting. Here's the same situation, except this time we need to shoot the cue ball above center. So in this case, you'll have to create a different bridge. We're going to be creating a bridge like this, where we'll be sliding our forefinger slightly under the cushion, and our thumb will be resting on the top part of the cushion. The stick will glide on this part of the bridge hand. Make sure when you create this bridge that you have one finger back for support. In this video, I'm going to show you how to perform power shots with the mechanical bridge. And there are plenty of videos out there that demonstrate the typical stroke when using the mechanical bridge. And if all you have to do is roll in the cue ball or play a slight stun shot, this type of stroke works really good. But what happens when you need to perform a power shot like this, where you have to send the cue ball around the table for position? Since most people don't practice very much with a mechanical bridge, they tend to struggle getting the necessary speed using the normal bridge stroke. But using a different stroke is not nearly as difficult. First, you're going to need an extension like this for your pull cue. These are ideal since it's very easy to take them off and on. Now, place the bridge on the table. Next, raise your back foot and place your cue on the bridge head. The goal is to lean as far as you can across the table. Now hold the cue stick using your normal stroke. Since you're using your normal stroke, it's much easier to come through the cue ball correctly. And once you get used to using the bridge in this manner, it won't seem any different than any other type of shot. In this example, we're going to be using a power draw shot. And performing a power draw shot is one of the most difficult shots to perform when using the typical bridge stroke. But using your normal stroke, it's much easier to get through the cue ball correctly. The key is to aim just above maximum low using a firm stroke. Learning how to use your own stroke when using the mechanical bridge will not only increase your ball pocketing, but also improves your position play. Of all the topics we covered in previous chapters, one of the most important things we discussed was understanding not just how you pocket balls, but also how you miss shots. This is information that is available to you every time you practice and can instantly improve your game. But the majority of players aren't using this information. When working with students, after only a few minutes of them shooting shots, I can already see patterns in not just how they pocket balls, but also in how they miss shots. So let me give you a simple example. When one of my students was shooting this shot, where they would use low right to pocket the ball, I noticed that the object ball would catch a lot of the side rail, but due to the flat angle, it still went in the pocket. So as a test, I placed the object ball a little further from the rail, which means this shot has to be pocketed much cleaner than the previous shot. And it was at this point the student informed me that this was a bit of a problem shot for them. And right on cue, the object ball caught too much of the side rail. And the same was true for this shot, where the student had to pocket this ball and play shape for the 8-ball. So if the student knew that on this type of shot they had a tendency to strike a little too much of the object ball, they would adjust their aim until they could pocket this ball more cleanly, which in turn will positively affect similar shots, allowing them to pocket more balls. Now this was a simple example, but for many players that have been playing for years, learning how you pocket balls along with how you miss balls is a game changer. It's something everyone can start doing right away. One example I sometimes use is to set this shot up and have them pocket the ball with center high, then with center right, then with center left. And what I'm looking for is how cleanly they are pocketing the ball. So if they're shooting this shot with just center high, and they tend to catch this part of the pocket, that usually means that this slight flaw in their aiming will be magnified as the object ball gets further from the pocket. What I tell my students is that if you really want to improve, you not only have to become a student of the game, but you also have to become a student of your own game. Knowing how you make and miss shots is a vital component of elevating your game to a higher level. And I have a series of drills that I set up for students that will allow us to get immediate feedback in how they make and miss shots. I'll set up 30 of the most commonly missed shots. And before the student can attempt these shots using side spin, we first attempt to pocket these shots just using center high, first using a soft speed, and then we're going to be using a firm speed. So I'll have the student shoot each shot 10 times in a row from both sides of the table. And even if they miss the shot, I don't want them to adjust their aim. What I'm trying to find is where their true aim is. Do they tend to overcut these shots, or do they tend to undercut these shots? So as they shoot each shot, I make note of how many shots were undercut and how many shots were overcut. And with students who have been playing pool for many years, there tends to be a pattern in how they miss. So if their pattern is to overcut this shot, then we change their aim point on the pocket. And even though aiming toward this new spot doesn't look quite right to them, that's going to be natural since their true aim on this shot was slightly off. As the player works through all 30 of these drills, with each shot they gain valuable knowledge about their game. And it's important that they first start with center ball and no side spin. Because at the end of the day, what you'll find out is that there are certain shots where your success rate is higher when shooting with just center ball as opposed to side spin, and vice versa. But you first have to know which way of shooting the shot gives you the highest percentage of success. And at the same time, you have to learn how to pocket the ball using both center ball and side spin, since both offer a different path for the cue ball. But if all you had to do was pocket the ball, as in this example where the player has to pocket the 5 ball and land on the in route for shaping the 8 ball, they need to know which way offers the best chance of pocketing the ball, either with center ball or with side spin. And if you watch top professionals, you'll notice that there are certain typical side spin shots where they use center ball instead. These are players that have a thorough understanding of their game and they know how to shoot each shot, which gives them the best chance at continuing their run. Becoming your own coach is essential to accelerating your growth in pool. But at the same time, it will be beneficial to find a coach who can help you with these areas of your game. Finding a coach who can help explain the nuances of pattern play may be harder to find, but they are out there. I always tell students that they need to learn how to pocket balls with both center ball and side spin. And once you can pocket balls with both side spin and center ball, then you'll know which option gives you the highest percentage of success. So if we examine this shot, I can pocket the 1 ball with either a center ball shot or a side spin shot. Now most players would use a low right on this shot. If you're not quite in stroke or if you're a little bit nervous, then the center ball shot is a great option. Here's another shot that players need to practice with both center ball and side spin. Normally a player would use low right on this shot, but due to the distance along with using side spin, this shot can become extremely difficult. This type of shot can also be completed just using center low. As mentioned earlier, practice this shot with and without side spin and determine which option gives you the best chance of success. As a general rule, if your success rate is the same for both center ball and side spin, then choosing center ball is the safer option. Here's a common shot that is usually shot with low left, but you can play a similar position using center ball. Keep practicing this until you can make it 10 shots in a row with both methods. In high pressure situations, players tend to decelerate, which, when using side spin, may cause a missed shot. So it's always a good idea to have the option of shooting shots with center ball. On this shot, I'll be pocketing the 13 and going 3 rails for shaping the 8 ball. Players tend to use inside spin on this shot, which increases the overall difficulty of the shot. On this shot, just using center high will send the cue ball along the correct path. And since we're just using center ball, it becomes a shot that is very repeatable. Here is another shot that is typically shot with side spin. However, just like the previous shot, just using center ball achieves the same result. On this shot, instead of using right spin to send the cue ball around the table, I'm just going to shoot center on the cue ball with a firm stroke. Practice this shot with both center ball and side spin, then determine which option gives you the best chance of success. As I just mentioned, it's important to learn how to pocket balls and play position with both center and side spin. In these examples, I'm going to demonstrate how low spin can replace side spin. In this first shot, we're playing 8-ball and we're on the 5-ball. We need to pocket the 5-ball and go off both side rails for shaping the 8-ball. Normally players would shoot this with a touch of right spin, and if it's in your shot repertoire, then this is a good option. If the right spin shot isn't in your shot repertoire, then this is the type of shot that is easy to decelerate on, which will cause an overcut of the object ball. Another option is to use straight maximum low with a soft stroke. While both types of shots require practice, the maximum low shot isn't as speed sensitive. It's a good idea to practice both shots to determine which shot gives you the best chance of success. Here's another example of using straight maximum low instead of side spin to play position. In this layout, we'll be pocketing the 3-ball and sending the cue ball back and forth for position on the 8-ball. With enough practice, this shot will give you very consistent results. In this 8-ball game, we're on the 3-ball and we need to play position for the 8-ball. This is another side spin shot where players will use left spin to try and hold the cue ball. As mentioned earlier, if it's in your shot repertoire, then using left spin to pocket the ball is a good option. If you aren't confident in the side spin shot, then try using maximum low. Once you develop a feel for what speed you need, it's a shot that is very repeatable. In this game of 8-ball, we're on our last solid, and we need to hold the cue ball for shape on the 8-ball. This is another one of those shots where players tend to use low right. A mistake players sometimes make on shots like this is to use the proper amount of right spin, but not enough low spin, which causes the cue ball to have too much energy by the time it strikes the end rail. It's a good idea to practice this shot with just straight draw. The key to this shot is striking maximum low with good acceleration, and with enough practice you should develop a feel for this type of shot. Here I've increased the angle in the object ball and I can still hold the cue ball for shape just using maximum low. In this game of 8-ball, we're on the 7-ball, we need to land over here for position on the 8-ball. This is one of those shots where many players instinctively use side spin with a stun draw shot like this. The problem is that if you accidentally get too much draw on the cue ball, you'll be sent in this direction. The main issue with using side spin on this shot is that it becomes a speed sensitive shot, in that a fraction too much speed or a fraction less speed results in a much different cue ball path. On this type of shot, a straight maximum low shot gives the player a consistent path. In this game of 8-ball, we're on the 6-ball and we need to pocket the 6 and draw back for shape on the 8-ball for the same pocket. This is normally a low left shot, which if it's in your repertoire, it's a great shot. If it's not in your repertoire, then it becomes a risky shot, since players tend to decelerate when they're unsure about their shot, which usually results in a missed shot when using side spin. A good alternative here is to use straight draw. Once you have the shot down, it's fairly easy to repeat. Here, I'll decelerate on purpose and I'm still able to pocket the ball. In this 9-ball game, we're on the 3-ball and we need to play position for the 4-ball. This is another side spin shot that's easy to miss if you don't fully commit to the shot. When players miss side spin shots, it's usually due to deceleration or applying extra side spin on their forward stroke. This shot can be simplified by using straight draw. This is a great shot to add to your repertoire since it comes up quite often. In this game of 8-ball, we're on the 13-ball and we need to land here for the 8-ball. This is normally shot with right spin, and if it's in your shot repertoire, it's a great shot. But sometimes the shot can be in your repertoire, but for whatever reason, nerves or being tired, the shot can go from a high percentage shot to a low percentage shot. This is one of those times when a player really has to be comfortable with the shot. Otherwise, it's easy to decelerate or strike the shot with too much speed. On this shot, another good option to consider is the straight draw shot. This shot does require practice, but once you have it down, it's very repeatable. The main benefit of this shot is that if the speed is off, you still have a very good chance of pocketing the ball, as opposed to the side spin shot. Here's a similar shot where players tend to use low left to spin the object ball into the pocket and hold the cue ball for their next ball. As the distance increases between the object ball and cue ball, the level of difficulty increases due to the variables involved when using side spin. On this shot, practice shooting this with maximum low. Since you'll be striking almost a full ball on the object ball, the cue ball should hold in the same area. It's definitely a practice shot, but once you have it down, it's a very repeatable shot. I'll sometimes set up this 8-ball layout for my student, and then I'll ask them how they would play position for the 6-ball to get on the 8-ball. Usually what happens is that the player will tell me that they are going to land here, then simply roll forward for position on the 8-ball. Then my next question is, how large is the position window on the 6-ball? And this tends to be one of the biggest mistakes the average player makes when playing position. They quickly choose their next shot before examining the position window. So if we play position for the 6-ball in the top side pocket, here is the position window. So we can see it's not very large. If the player ends up just outside this window, he'll end up with an awkward angle. Now if we examine the window for the other side pocket, we can see that it's much larger. Ending up anywhere in this position window will give us the angle we need to get on the 8-ball. The reason this position window is larger is because the natural angle off the 6-ball heads toward the top side rail with a sliding cue ball. So if the cue ball did land here, we could use a little low spin to send the cue ball to the target area. If we examine the other side pocket, we can see that the natural path off the object ball heads toward the bottom side rail, away from our target area. Since the natural path heads away from our target area, this results in a much smaller position window. So if we were to play the percentages, we have a greater chance of landing in this position window than the other position window, providing this shot is in your shot repertoire. And sometimes I work with a student who doesn't have this shot in their shot repertoire, so at this point in their skill level, they would be better off playing position for the 6-ball in the other side pocket. This is why it's so important to constantly increase your shot repertoire. A strong player can perform this shot over and over again. A player who has a limited shot repertoire will often have to play position for shots that require extremely precise cue ball control. So when working with a student, we shoot this shot over and over again until they develop a feel for this shot. Now if this were the layout and you had no choice but to play for the 6-ball in the top side pocket, you would play position for the largest part of the position window, which is right here. Since we're going to be using follow on the cue ball when shooting the 6-ball, ending up on the cushion won't affect the shot. Here's a similar example. In this 8-ball game, we need to land here from the 6-ball. So once again, let's examine the position windows for each side pocket. If we play position for the 6-ball in the bottom side pocket, here is the position window, which isn't very large. And it's not very large since a natural path off the object ball heads toward the top side rail. Playing position this way is going to require extremely precise cue ball control. Now let's look at the position window for the other side pocket. It's larger since the natural path off the object ball heads toward the bottom side rail. And because of this, our position window is much larger than playing shape for the 6-ball in the other side pocket. And sometimes the student will mention that they don't like to move the cue ball too much, so they would prefer to play position for the bottom side pocket. When it comes to distance regarding cue ball movement, it's not distance that you need to take into consideration. It's the percentage of success for each shot that you need to be aware of. Even though there's more cue ball movement on this shot, the real question is how many times out of 100 can a player perform this shot successfully, providing this shot is in their shot repertoire. A strong player can probably perform this shot with a success rate of over 95%.
And the success rate for this shot is very high since we would be playing for the natural angle on the 6th ball.
Which means this shot is very repeatable. The success rate of landing in this position area, even for a strong player, won't be nearly as high, since it won't take much to end up outside of this position window. So even though there is less cue ball movement, this shot carries the greatest risk. Examining position windows is how you determine whether or not you've chosen the best pattern. For example, in this 8-ball game we have 4 stripes left. In this layout we can run the pattern this way where we shoot the 8-ball in the corner pocket. Before I decide to shoot the pattern this way, I'm going to examine the second way to run this layout. In this run out, we'll start with the 10-ball, then shoot the 9-ball second, and finishing with the 8-ball in the side pocket. So how do we determine which pattern is best? First, we'll examine the position windows for the first run out, and we can see that the position windows are fairly large for each shot. If we examine the position windows for the second run out, we can see that the position window for the 9-ball is very small, which is going to require precise speed control to land in this window. So the first pattern would give us the best chance of running this table. Now if the player doesn't have this first shot in their repertoire, they'll probably end up playing the second pattern, which requires precise control of the cue ball for position on the 9-ball. This is why it's important to always be expanding your shot repertoire. By doing this, you'll start shooting patterns that offer the best chance for a run out. Let's examine this 9-ball game. We have ball in hand on the 1-ball, and we need to play for an angle on the 2-ball to get on the 3-ball. Before I shoot the 1-ball, I'm going to examine the position windows for each side pocket. If we want to play for the 2-ball in the top side pocket, we need to find the position window. First, find the pocket line for the 2-ball. Grab 2 balls and place the first ball near the pocket line. This ball will indicate the farthest point to the right, where we can still pocket the 2-ball and get our shape for the 3-ball. Next, we're going to place the second ball on the table, indicating the farthest point on the left, where we can still make the 2-ball and get on the 3-ball. So now we can visualize the position window for the top side pocket. Now that we have this window, let's check the window for the other side pocket. Once again, we'll place each ball on the table to indicate the edges of the position window. This window is much larger since the natural angle off the 2-ball heads in this direction, which means we can use low spin to create position for the 3-ball. So on this shot, the proper way to play the 1-ball would be to go 2 rails toward the middle of the side rail, landing in our position window. In this game of 8-ball, we need to play position on the 1-ball so we can play position for the 8-ball at the other end of the table. In order to pocket the 1-ball and play position for the 8-ball, we need to land near the pocket line. Ending up outside this window may end our run. For example, if we end up here, the tangent line heads in this direction, which means a rolling cue ball will be sent too high on the side rail. And ending up here won't work since the tangent line now heads toward the other side rail. Next, we're going to find the position window for the other corner pocket. Since the tangent line heads in the correct direction, the window is going to be a little larger for this corner pocket. Now let's say we had to play position for the 1-ball in the lower left corner pocket. A mistake players sometimes make is trying to get closer to the object ball, but as we can see, the position window becomes smaller the closer the cue ball is to the 1-ball. So in this situation, we would want to play position into the largest part of the position window. In this video, I'm going to show you how to drive the cue ball to a rail, hitting a specific target. If you've ever watched top players play 8-ball or 9-ball, you'll begin to notice how accurate they are whenever they drive a cue ball to a rail. It's this skill that allows them to control angles as they move the cue ball around the table. And as I travel around the country working with students for the 14 days experiment, this is one of the skills that we spend a lot of time on. Learning this skill is really going to improve your 8-ball and 9-ball game. I'm first going to go through several 8-ball and 9-ball scenarios to show you how powerful this shot is. Then we'll go through some drills to really help you get the hang of the shot. And once you get the shot down, I guarantee you're going to be using it over and over again because it really does help simplify many patterns. In this example, we're playing 8-ball and we have ball in hand on the 1 ball. The problem is that the 8-ball is surrounded by stripes, so I'm going to have to be pretty precise when playing position on it. Now many players would put the cue ball here and use low right to go 1 rail toward the side rail, or they would follow the cue ball off the end rail to this area here. While these shots will both work, they both require excellent cue ball control. Also, both shots are blind, which means when we are shooting the 1 ball, we're not able to see the cue ball's destination for either shot. Now watch what happens when I put the cue ball here using high action. I can easily send the cue ball directly to the side rail for position on the 8-ball. The benefit of shooting the shot this way is that I can see the cue ball's destination in my line of sight. So when I'm down on the shot, I can really line it up before I pull the trigger. And it's a shot that once you have down, you can repeat over and over again. Now I'm going to move the 8-ball farther up table, but it still doesn't matter. Once I line it up, it's a straight shot toward my target. If you want to reach a high level and pull, this is definitely one of the shots you'll need to add to your arsenal. In this game of 10-ball, my opponent scratched on the break, so we have ball in hand on the 1 ball. And many players would place the cue ball here and go 1 rail into this area for shape on the 2 ball. While this is definitely doable, there is a much better way to get down to the other end rail. I'm going to place the cue ball here and use high action to send the cue ball toward this diamond on the end rail. The advantage of shooting the shot this way is that you can see the cue ball's destination when you're lining up the shot. So you can really lock in on the correct path for the cue ball. It's important that whenever you send the cue ball to a rail like this, that you pick out a specific target on the rail to send the cue ball toward. In this situation, we're playing 8-ball and we have ball in hand on the 1 ball, and it looks like we'll have to play the 8-ball in the top left corner pocket. Now most players will put the cue ball here and try to roll into this area. This type of shot requires superb cue ball control. Whenever you're rolling the cue ball into a position area without using a rail, your speed control has to be very precise. And the farther the cue ball has to travel, the more likely it is that you're not going to end up where you think you're going to end up. It won't take much to end up a little short or a little long of your ideal position. A better way to play the shot is to send the cue ball off the side rail toward the 8-ball. We would simply select our target on the side rail and just pretend the stripe ball isn't even there. When I showed this type of shot to many of my students, they let me know that it's a shot that they would never attempt, simply because they would be too afraid of hitting the stripe ball. But what they don't realize is that they are usually opting for a shot that is actually harder to execute than this shot. In this game of 8-ball, the player has 2 solids left. Now some players would choose to pocket the 1 first, then play the 5-ball in the side pocket. The danger is ending up a bit short, making it tough to get on the 8-ball. This type of position requires excellent cue ball control. Instead, we'll put the cue ball here and drive the cue ball to a target on the side rail, giving us an easy shot on the 1 ball. The advantage of driving the cue ball off a target on the side rail is that your speed control doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you hit your target on the side rail, you can underhit or overhit the shot, and you should still have an angle on the next ball that you can work with. In this example, we have 2 solids left. In this situation, many players would pocket the 1 ball in the corner pocket or the side pocket and roll down the table for shape on the 5-ball. For instance, our ideal angle on the 5-ball is right here. So if we try to roll into this position area without using a rail, our speed control would have to be almost perfect. If we end up going a 1/4 inch too far, we're going to be left in a tough situation. Instead of rolling the cue ball into this position area, I'm going to send the cue ball off the rail toward the 5-ball. And since I need to cross the 5-ball pocket line, I'm going to use a touch of right spin. So instead of coming off the rail at this angle, the right spin will slightly widen the angle, leaving me on the correct side of the 5-ball pocket line. And the great thing about playing position this way is we don't need perfect speed control, and we'll be traveling toward the 5-ball at the correct angle. In this 8-ball layout, we're going to be playing the 8-ball in the left side pocket. And many players would put the cue ball here and go one rail into our position area. This is a very risky shot which takes excellent cue ball control, and it's also a blind shot. A better option is to put the cue ball here and just pick a target on the side rail. Anywhere in this area should be fine to pocket the 8-ball in the side pocket. The beauty of this shot is that you can see the target on the side rail in your line of sight. So it makes it easier to find the correct path for the cue ball when you're lining up the shot. Here's another example of players choosing the hard way to play position. In this layout, we need to pocket the 2-ball and play position for the 8-ball in the bottom left corner pocket. Now many players will put the cue ball here and try to hit the rail between the side pocket and the striped ball. Since it's a blind shot, it's much more difficult to hit the target on the side rail, as opposed to putting the cue ball here and just going straight toward the target. And once you have this shot down, you can do this shot all day long. It really is that simple. In this last example, we're playing 10-ball and we have ball in hand on the 4-ball. The issue is that we need to get from the 5-ball to the 6-ball. If we can end up on this side of the 5-ball pocket line, it won't take much effort to pocket the 5-ball and go 2 rails for the 6. And many players would try to pocket the 4-ball and just roll into this position area. As we mentioned earlier, whenever you try to roll the cue ball into your position area without using a rail, the farther you have to travel, the more likely it is you're not going to end up where you think. For instance, here I've ended up a few inches short, so now I'm going to have to perform a much tougher shot to get on the 6-ball. Coming off a rail doesn't require perfect speed control. Even if you overhit the shot, since the cue ball is traveling toward the 5-ball at the correct angle, you should still be fine. Now let's go through some drills that are really going to help you learn this shot. I'm going to place an object ball here on a sticker. The goal in this shot is to pocket the object ball and send the cue ball toward the second diamond. And when shooting the shot, we're going to be using maximum high. Anything less than maximum high just won't work. Now when many players first try this shot, their cue ball goes long, and this is usually because they're not striking the cue ball high enough. For instance, watch the difference when I strike the cue ball with maximum high as opposed to just center high. You can see that maximum high has more rotations which help drive the cue ball toward the rail. When you shoot this shot, keep track of where the cue ball is striking the rail. If the cue ball is striking below the second diamond, then you need a hair more angle on the object ball. If the cue ball is striking above the second diamond, that means you're giving yourself too much angle. And if it strikes way above the second diamond, then you may not be striking high enough on the cue ball. And one mistake many players make is that when they place the cue ball on the table, they don't make any further adjustments. They just accept the angle and try to make it work.
Well, that wasn't a wise choice.
Okay, so good rule of thumb is whenever you're driving the cue ball toward a rail, toward a number, it's always high action. Always high, which means you're max high. Grab my key. And these shots right here are real angle sensitive. I mean, if you shoot these too quickly, you'll miss your target. So you're going to see how high I hit the cue ball. I'm going to try and keep my speed down, but I'm going to try and use that high action. You got to really take your time. You got to really put that cue ball exactly where you want. Because you don't want it to be hit here. You want to hit right about there. Once you're down on the shot, you want to use the shaft of your pull cue to help refine the angle. When you first practice these shots, it may be a bit of a guessing game as to what angle you'll need to send the cue ball toward your target. But after you practice this shot for a while, you start to instinctively know when you have the proper angle. And once you develop a feel for this shot, it won't take much effort to send the cue ball toward your target on the rail. Keep practicing this shot until you can perform it successfully a few times in a row. Next, we're going to send the cue ball toward this point here. This shot requires just a hair less angle. And once again, keep practicing this shot until you can consistently send the cue ball toward this target. It's important that you keep practicing these types of shots until you can develop a feel for what angle you'll need for each target. Next, select different targets along the side rail and see how well you can strike each one. Here's another drill for this shot. We'll be placing the object ball in the middle of the table and sending the cue ball to different targets along the side rail. See if you can strike each target 5 times in a row. And when working with my 14 Days participants, we use a numbering system which starts at 0 for the corner pocket and goes to 40, which is the side pocket. So my first target was 30, and now my target is 25. And when shooting these shots, place the cue ball as close as possible to the correct angle on the object ball while standing up. Now, when you're down on the table, you can start fine-tuning the angle slightly. And it may take a few seconds until you have it just right, but with enough practice, you can really become accurate at these types of shots. Keep working your way down the table until you get to 10. Now, the next time you're in a situation like this, you can simply pick a number on the side rail to send your cue ball toward for shape on the next ball. Another drill you can try is to send the cue ball around obstacle balls that are near the side rail. Keep moving the obstacle ball around and keep challenging yourself to try and get around the ball. Pick a number on the side rail and pretend that the obstacle ball isn't even there. Really fine-tune the angle on the object ball before shooting. Eventually, you'll be able to send the cue ball around obstacle balls that are on the other side of the table. These shots require a bit more time in selecting just the right angle to send the cue ball toward your target. But once you have this shot down, it really will transform your game.
Very precise, huh?
Yeah, but you see how
It's falling in maybe a little hole there.
He's just not comfortable.
He can't get it to where he wants. It's rolling back in. Jason Shaw. Jason.
Okay. You got a problem here with the 2 and the 9, and also the 4 ball doesn't have a pocket. He can't go past the 8. So this is a tricky little run out. I don't know about this. I wouldn't start here.
I wouldn't either. I don't think this is a run out. I think you play for a safety off the 2 ball.
I'm a little surprised he's trying to shoot this shot.
Yeah, this is weird.
He's doing that to break these balls up. Well, he did it.
Here's a great drill you can practice the next time you're on a table. Throw 6 balls out on the table and make sure none of them are tied up. Now we're going to shoot the balls in order. Before I shoot the 1 ball, I'm going to place a coin on the table to represent the angle I want for the 3rd ball, which is the 3 ball. An angle like this on the 3 ball should work for getting on the 4 ball. Before I shoot the 1 ball, I'm really going to lock in on the angle I need on the 2 ball. That will allow me to send the cue ball toward this angle for the 3 ball. So when I shoot the 2 ball, my goal is to land on or very close to this angle. Now that I'm on the 3 ball, I'm going to place a coin where I would like to end up for the 5 ball. An angle like this on the 5 ball will give me the natural angle I need to get my shape for the 6 ball.
Now that I know what angle I need for the 5 ball, I now know that ending up near the 4 ball pocket line will allow me to draw back for this angle.
As you improve at this drill, start adding more balls. And if 6 balls is too difficult, just start with 3 balls. The great thing about this drill is that it forces you to think 3 balls ahead. One of the biggest mistakes players make is shooting too quickly before they create a game plan. And this can also work in competition. Instead of using a coin, however, you'll be pointing your tip to the spot on the table where you would like to end up for the 3rd ball. So if I'm playing 9 ball in a competition, I would find the angle I need on the 3 ball to get on the 4 ball. This angle here will allow me to send the cue ball 2 rails for shape on the 4 ball. Since I need to land here for the 3 ball, I now know I need to land near the side rail at a high angle for the 2 ball. If you find yourself struggling or not focusing in competition, try slowing down and picking your position area for the 3rd ball.
Taking a few extra seconds to create your game plan before every shot will help prevent playing too quickly and ending up with an awkward angle.
I'm going to show you a great drill for not only improving your 8-ball patterns, but it's also a great drill for visualizing position windows, along with finding ideal angles. Now we're first going to start with 2 balls and an 8-ball. We're going to throw them out on the table, and once they stop rolling, we need to figure out the best way to run both solids along with the 8-ball. The goal of these drills is once you find the runout you like, you next need to examine the position windows. For example, what if we wanted to play the 5-ball first and then the 1-ball in the side pocket? Before shooting, grab 2 balls and place them on the table to represent the position window. Since the sliding cue ball path heads in this direction, our position window is going to be very large. Landing anywhere in this position window will allow us to get position for the 8-ball. Now it doesn't mean we still can't get position for the 8-ball if the cue ball ends up outside this window. This position window simply represents a specific angle that we feel would be the easiest way to play position for the 8-ball. Landing here will allow us to still pocket the 1-ball and get our position for the 8-ball, but now the pocketing of the 1-ball in the side pocket becomes very difficult, and we might have to change our pocket for the 1-ball. The ideal angle is here, since the shot is very makeable, and the angle is helping move the cue ball to our position area. And we're not going to play the 5-ball this way, since a slight mishit could cause us to land too close to the pocket line. Instead, we're going to send the cue ball off the end rail, and now it's traveling within the position window. As you improve with just 2 solids, now add a stripe, and once again determine a runout, then examine the position window. If we played the pattern this way, where we pocket the 5-ball and slide over for the 8-ball, this is our position window. And if we did choose this pattern, we would pocket the 1-ball in the side pocket, but we wouldn't travel this way since this requires precise cue ball speed. Instead, we would travel to the larger part of the position window. Now let's examine the position window for the 5-ball in the side pocket. The advantage of playing the pattern this way is that the 1-ball is fairly close to the position window, especially if we travel toward this part of the window. Now before shooting the 1-ball, we're going to lock in on the ideal angle, which is on the pocket line. So we ended up extremely close to the pocket line. Now we can roll forward for our position on the 8-ball. Now we've added 1 more solid. In this pattern, the goal is to find a pattern that will send the cue ball to our position area for the 8-ball. One pattern is to play the runout this way. While this is a decent option, the pattern we're going to play will leave the 5-ball as our key ball. The goal is to land on this angle, which will allow us to pocket the 5-ball and send the cue ball to the target area just using maximum high. Since this is our ideal angle for the 5-ball, we'll next find an angle in the 1-ball that will send the cue ball to a target along this angle. An angle like this will allow us to shoot softly, giving us tight control over speed and path. So before shooting the 3-ball, I'll take note of what number the ideal angle heads toward, which is 23. Since I landed fairly close to the ideal angle, I'm only going to need a touch of right spin to help send the cue ball along the correct path. As you keep improving in these drills, add more balls to the layout. In this pattern, we now have 4 solids. Since we need precise position for the 8-ball, we need to really take our time and find the appropriate pattern. And when practicing drills like this, really take your time. It's important that you work on your pattern play just like you would work on ball pocketing drills. Understanding position windows and ideal angles is the key to reaching a very high level in pool. Now here is one way to run the pattern where we pocket the 7-ball and land in our position area. So this would be an acceptable way to run the pattern. The one potential problem of this pattern is getting from the 1 ball to the 5 ball. And if we don't strike it correctly, it wouldn't take much to end up with an awkward angle or having to shoot over the 10 ball. When practicing pattern play, try to come up with at least 2 different ways of running the pattern. Then select the pattern that offers the least amount of risk. The other way of playing the pattern is this way, where we're creating an angle in the 3 ball to send the cue ball to the top side rail. Since the natural path off the 3 ball heads in this direction, our position window is very large. And since the 7 ball is within this position window, this now makes the pattern much easier. Before shooting the 5 ball, I'm going to check my position window for the 7 ball using 2 balls. This position window indicates an angle that will send the cue ball toward the 3 ball at the correct angle. Now if I land outside this window, I can still run out, but it's just going to take more effort. These pattern drills are all about creating angles that are going to help move the cue ball toward your next ball at the correct angle. At this angle, a soft rolling shot should track the cue ball toward the 3 ball. So we now have 5 solids along with 4 stripes as part of the pattern. If we were to break this pattern down, we can safely assume the 8 ball is going into this side pocket. So therefore it could be a safe assumption that the 3 ball would be the key ball. Now let's find a run out that will lead to position for the 3 ball. If we choose this way of running the pattern, the 5, 6, and 7 ball are all connected. And once we're on the 7 ball, we can send the cue ball 2 rails into the position area near the side rail, which is very large. Before shooting the 1 ball, I'm going to find the ideal angle for the 5 ball. And we're looking for an angle where we can shoot softly, but the angle is helping move the cue ball toward our next ball at the correct angle. An angle of around 30 degrees would be ideal. Now that I have my ideal angle for the 5 ball, I need to decide the best way to land on this angle. One option is to send the cue ball this way toward our angle. This way of playing position wouldn't be preferred due to the precision involved as far as speed control. A better option would be to send the cue ball toward this target on the side rail. By traveling toward the side rail, it's much easier to land in the position window. Now the other option, and the one I chose, is to place the cue ball here and draw straight back. If I create a very slight angle in the 1 ball, I can redirect the cue ball to the target on the side rail. Now that we've ended up at our ideal angle, we're going to find our position window for the 6 ball. On this shot, I can play to land on the pocket line. I just have to avoid crossing the line. Now the safer option would be to play just above the pocket line to ensure we avoid landing below the line, ending up with an awkward angle. And when we pocket the 6 ball, we're going to make sure we end up above the 7 ball pocket line. Playing 2 rails off the end rail and side rail means we're landing in the larger part of the position window. Now we have 6 balls along with 4 stripes. If we examine this way of playing the pattern, we can see that there is a flow to the run out as 1 ball leads to another. When we pocket the 7 ball, we're just going to slide over an inch or 2 to create an angle in the 2 ball that we can use to get on the 6 ball. Before we shoot the 2 ball, we need to find the ideal angle in the 6 ball that we can use to send the cue ball toward the 5 ball at the correct angle. An angle like this will allow us to float in the 6 ball with right spin toward the 5 ball. So now we have a target to send the cue ball toward when shooting the 2 balls. Before shooting the 6 ball, we need to find our ideal angle for the 1 ball. An angle like this will naturally send the cue ball toward the 3 ball pocket line. Since we need to land at this angle for the 1 ball, we don't want too much angle for the 5 ball. So this now becomes our position window. Before shooting the 5 ball, I'll visualize the angle as it heads toward the side rail, giving me a target to send the cue ball toward. And in the beginning, all of this takes time, of course, but the more you practice visualizing position windows and finding ideal angles, the more it becomes second nature. One aspect of pool that isn't discussed much is playing position into an open area as opposed to coming off the rail. If you watch professionals, whenever possible they prefer coming off rails for position on their next ball. In most circumstances, rolling into position areas requires better speed control than if the player came off a rail. For instance, in this game of 9-ball, we have ball in hand on the 4-ball. Our ideal angle is around here on the 5-ball. Now many players would choose to roll into this position area. The danger in playing the shot this way is that you don't have position until the very end of the cue ball path, so your speed control has to be excellent. A better alternative is to send the cue ball off the side rail. The reason this option is better is that there is more of the cue ball path that is in the position area, so your position window is much larger. And once you have the shot down, you can shoot it over and over again with consistent results. Here's another example where many students choose to roll into an open area as opposed to coming off the rail. In this 9-ball game, we have ball in hand on the 1-ball, and we need to end up in this position area so we can play shape for the 3-ball. If we try to roll into this area from the 1-ball, our speed control would have to be excellent. It won't take much to end up a little long or a little short. This time we'll send the cue ball off the side rail with a touch of right spin. Now once the cue ball leaves the side rail, it's traveling toward the 2-ball at the correct angle. If you play the shot this way, your speed control doesn't have to be perfect, which means you can repeat this shot over and over again with similar results. Here's a shot that comes up quite often. In this 10-ball layout, I'm on the 4-ball and I need to create an angle on the 5-ball to get on the 6-ball. If we can end up on this side of the 5-ball pocket line, we should have a nice angle on the 5-ball to take the cue ball toward the end rail. So in this scenario, we have two options. In the first option, we can roll forward to here, just crossing the 5-ball pocket line. This option will require excellent speed control since we don't have our angle until the very end of the cue ball path. The second option is to send the cue ball off the end rail and toward the 5-ball at the correct angle. Playing position this way really opens up our position window. And if we did hit the shot badly and came up a little short of the end rail, we would still be on the correct side of the pocket line, which is much better than coming up short as in the first option. In this 10-ball game, I'm on the 6-ball and I need to end up on this side of the 7-ball pocket line so I can get my shape on the 8-ball. Once again, I have two options in playing position. I can either roll into this area, which would require excellent speed control, or I can send the cue ball off the side and end rail, opening up my position window. Once the cue ball comes off the end rail, it's traveling on the correct side of the pocket line, so we can end up anywhere along this path. Playing the shot this way isn't as speed sensitive. In this 10-ball game, we have ball in hand on the 1-ball, and we need to create an angle on the 2-ball that we can use to get on the 3-ball. If we can end up on this side of the pocket line, we'll have a nice angle that we can use to get on the 3-ball. When I set up this layout for my students, they tend to place the cue ball here and try to roll into their position area. And sometimes they are successful on their first attempt, so they assume this is the proper way to play it. But pool is a game where consistency is key, and what the students soon realize is that landing in their position area over and over again is very difficult. A more consistent way to create our angle on the 2-ball is to place the cue ball here and send the cue ball off the side rail. By playing the shot this way, we no longer need precise speed control, which now means our consistency will be much better, and this will result in more table runs. If you tend to get nervous pocketing the last ball, here's a little trick that should help you win more games. The next time you're shooting the last ball, pretend that it's the ball before the last ball. So on this shot, I'll pretend I need to play position for the 11 ball in the corner pocket. I'll even figure out a general position area I need to land in. By doing this, it takes away the pressure of shooting the last ball. Now I'm simply playing position for the 11 ball. And one issue that sometimes comes up is getting down on the last shot before determining your speed or cue ball path. And when this happens, the player has to figure all this out when down on the table, which may or may not work. Playing position for a ball forces you to have a game plan before getting down on the table. And you can do the same thing when playing 8-ball. Before I shoot the 8-ball, I'll find a ball to play position for. And it's important that I pick a ball that will allow me to play natural position. Since I'll be pocketing the 8-ball with low right, I know the cue ball will land in this area. So now I can pretend I'm playing position for the 10-ball. When working with students, one principle of position play that we spend a lot of time on is letting angles do the work for you. And this means playing for a little more angle on certain shots, which will help send the cue ball toward its position area. For instance, in this game, Efren has ball in hand on the 1 ball. In the game, Efren created a high angle on the 2 ball, which meant all he had to do was softly roll in the 2 ball, and the cue ball will be sent toward the other half of the table. By playing a high angle like this, all Efren had to do was pocket the 2 ball, and the angle would do most of the work as far as moving the cue ball down the table. Had he played for an easier shot on the 2 ball from the 1 ball, he would then have to use a stun shot to send the cue ball up table, which is much harder to control. In this example, we're playing 9 ball and we're on the 1 ball. The issue is getting from the 2 ball to the 3 ball. Instead of rolling forward a bit and taking an easier shot on the 2 ball, I'm going to kill the cue ball and keep this high angle. At this angle, all I need to do is roll in the 2 ball, and the cue ball should head toward the other end rail. Now many players would roll forward when they shoot the 1 ball, creating an easier shot on the 2 ball. But at this angle, we can no longer roll the 2 ball into the pocket and still get our position on the 3 ball. Now we're going to have to use a stun follow shot, which is much harder to control. Creating angles that will help send the cue ball to its next position area is essential to playing high-level pool. These are the types of angles you'll have to become comfortable with. In this game of 9 ball, the problem is getting from the 3 ball to the 4 ball. It's going to be too difficult to get my ideal position on the 3 ball, so I'll have to play for an angle on this side of the 3 ball pocket line. But at this angle, I'll have to use a stun shot to go up and down the table. While this is doable, if I had just played for a little more angle in the 3 ball, I would have much better control over the cue ball's path, since at this angle I can use a rolling cue ball. In this game of 8 ball, I need to play for an angle on the 5 ball that will send the cue ball toward the other end rail for shape on the 8 ball. In this first shot, I left myself here in the 5 ball, which means I'm going to have to use a stun follow shot with quite a bit of side spin. In the next attempt, I'll place the cue ball near the end rail. Now I have an angle in the 5 ball that will help propel the cue ball toward the other end rail. And sometimes there's only about an inch of difference between a stun shot and a rolling shot. It's important that you can recognize which angles are rolling angles and which angles are stun angles. In this example, we're playing 9 ball and we're on the 1 ball. The issue is getting from the 2 ball to the 3 ball. We have an issue with the 3 ball since we'll have to play it in the bottom left corner pocket. If we play for an angle like this on the 2 ball, it won't take very much effort to roll in the 2 ball and send the cue ball to the side rail for position. Now, had we not paid attention to this rolling cue ball angle, we may go too far when we pocket the 1 ball, leaving ourselves an angle on the 2 ball, which is going to require much more work to get to our position area. In this game of 8 ball, we have 2 solids left. Many players would roll in the 3 ball and take this shot on the 5 ball. At this angle, we'll have to stun the cue ball either toward the side rail or the end rail for position on the 8-ball. While this shot is doable, there's a slightly easier way to get on the 8-ball. Now when we shoot the 3-ball, we're going to send the cue ball over to the side rail. Now it takes a very soft stroke to send the cue ball to the end rail. Another drill is placing a ball by the side pocket and the 8-ball on the end rail. Take cue ball in hand and try to create an angle in the object ball that will send the cue ball to the end rail for shaping the 8-ball. Try to keep the cue ball within 1 diamond of the end rail, so make sure you use a soft speed. You may take a few tries until you find the correct angle, but the more you practice drills like this, the easier it becomes to finding the right angle. And once you do find the angle, this shot becomes very repeatable with very little effort. You should be able to shoot it over and over again with similar results. Now move the 8-ball closer to the corner pocket. Once again, find an angle in the object ball that will take the cue ball to the end rail. Once you shoot this shot enough times, you're going to know immediately when you have the correct angle on the object ball. Learning how to use the angles to move the cue ball around the table will dramatically change how you play this game. Let's examine 2 different angles on the 3-ball. At this angle, it won't take much effort to roll in the 3-ball and send the cue ball to the end rail for the 8-ball. Now, let's change the angle to the 3-ball slightly. At this angle, we can no longer roll the 3-ball into the side pocket and get our position on the 8-ball. Now we'll have to use a stun shot to get to the end rail. So if we were playing in a game, I would try to play position for this rolling cue ball shot. Recognizing when to use angles like this to move the cue ball around the table will help take your game to that next level. In this 8-ball game, I ended up straight in on the 14-ball, and I need to play position for the 8-ball. In situations like this, there is a way to play position, and that's by elevating your cue stick slightly and striking the cue ball with at least 2 tips of side spin. Since we want the cue ball to go left after striking the cushion, then we're going to be using left spin. And the reason this shot works is because the cue ball hops slightly when contacting the object ball, and once it returns to the table bed, the left spin propels the cue ball toward the side rail. And when you perform this shot, the key is to not over-elevate the cue stick. A little elevation with about 2 tips of side spin should send the cue ball along the correct path. This type of shot works best when the cue ball and object ball are fairly close to each other. It even works in situations like this where I need to pocket the 11 ball and play position for the 8 ball. And when the object ball is this close to a cushion, the cue ball will strike the cushion after hopping, which will send it across the table. And you can use this method on shots like this where we need to land in this area for the 8 ball. A normal high right shot goes here, which won't work. But if we elevate the cue stick, the cue ball hops when it strikes the object ball, and the right spin propels the cue ball to the right and toward the end rail. And this shot even works without side spin. On this shot, we need to draw back for the side rail for position on the 8 ball. So once again, I'll slightly elevate, which causes the cue ball to hop slightly, changing its path. And once you have this shot down, it's easy to repeat over and over again. Here we can see the cue ball hopping, and then the low spin propels it toward the side rail. Here's a drill that will help you become more skilled at shooting over a ball. Throw several balls out on the table and place 3 balls behind the cue ball along the shot line. Now remove the first 2 balls. Now we're going to pocket the object ball while shooting over the obstacle ball we just placed on the table. Next, shoot another ball and once again place 3 balls behind the cue ball. Then remove 2 of them. Keep doing this with each shot. The goal is to get you comfortable shooting over a ball. This is also a great way to play 8-ball or 9-ball with a friend. Before shooting your shot, place your obstacle ball behind the cue ball. Play a race to 5 or 10 with your friend, and each time either of you shoot, you have to place an obstacle ball behind the cue ball. As you improve, then place 2 balls behind the cue ball and remove one of them. After a few sessions of playing this way, shooting over a ball won't be as intimidating. Now, if the cue ball is near a rail, then use a piece of chalk to act as an obstacle. If you're having trouble pocketing a ball, try aiming above the cue ball first, then slowly lower the tip toward the cue ball. In 9-ball or 8-ball games, whenever you send the cue ball to a rail, just don't blindly send it to a rail. Be very specific about which part of the cushion you're going to strike. For example, in this 9-ball layout, we're on the 5-ball and we need to create an angle on the 6-ball to get on the 7-ball. Ideally, we would like to have a little distance between the cue ball and 6-ball pocket line. At this angle, we can go 2 or 3 rails for a position on the 7-ball. One mistake many players make when sending the cue ball to a rail is not being specific as to which part of the rail they need to hit with the cue ball. And this sometimes leads to awkward angles, making for a tougher run out. A numbering system I use with students is to count the diamonds as 10. So if we look at the 6-ball pocket line, we can see that it heads toward 20 on the side rail. If we can send the cue ball off the rail around 23 or 25, we should end up at a nice angle for our 3-rail shot. So before I shoot the 6-ball, I need to be very specific about where I need to hit the top side rail. If I can strike the rail above 20, that should give me a high angle in the 7-ball that I can use to get on the 8-ball. In this 8-ball game, we have 2 solids left. My plan is to pocket the 4-ball and draw the cue ball back to the side rail below the 3-ball pocket line. If I end up too close to the pocket line, I'll have a tough positional shot to get on the 8-ball. So first I'll examine the 3-ball pocket line and determine which angle will work best for going 2 rails for shape on the 8-ball. At this angle I can roll in the 3-ball and the cue ball will naturally go 2 rails for shape on the 8-ball. So if I can draw the cue ball back to 15 on the side rail, I should have my angle. So before I shoot the 3-ball, I need to pick a number on the bottom side rail to send the cue ball toward. If I can send the cue ball toward 10 on the bottom side rail, that should work for getting my shape on the 8-ball. By picking a number on the bottom side rail like this, it helps me visualize the cue ball path, so I'll have a better idea of how much side spin, if any, I'm going to need. In this 8-ball game, I'm on my last solid and I need to play position for the 8-ball. The problem is that my position window is rather small, so I'll have to be very specific about my cue ball path. It looks like if we can end up here, we should have a clear shot at the 8-ball. So a good rail number to use would be 20. Now, before I even get down in the shot, I visualize the path I'll need to send the cue ball to 20. One trick many strong players use is to keep visualizing the cue ball path even when they're down on the table. This helps keep their focus on the path of the cue ball. Using rail numbers is also used when sending the cue ball off the end rail, as in this example here. I'm playing 9-ball and I need to pocket the 1-ball and send the cue ball off the end rail to this area here. So before I shoot the 1-ball, I'll select a number on the end rail, which in this case is 15, and use that as my target. Using a number like this really helps since you now have a specific target to send the cue ball toward. In this game of 9-ball, I'm on the 2-ball and I need to create an angle on the 3-ball that I can use to get on the 4-ball. The issue is that I'll be playing the 3 in the side pocket, so my position window is rather small. If I just blindly send the cue ball to the side rail, I may end up with an awkward angle. This time, before I shoot the 2-ball, I'll examine the 3-ball pocket line. I can see that the pocket line goes to 23 on the side rail. So now I know if I can send the cue ball toward 20, I should end up on the correct side of the pocket line. Giving yourself a specific number on rails like this really helps to tighten your cue ball path, instead of just blindly sending the cue ball to the rail. If you examine top players, you'll notice that they tend to walk around the table before shooting their next shot. The main reason for this is that it gives them a much better picture as far as what angle will work best. For example, in this 8-ball game, if I shoot before examining what angle I need, I may end up with an awkward angle like this. Now, if I had walked around and examined the shot, I would have realized that this is the area I need to land in, since at these angles I can softly roll in the 5-ball, giving me precise control of the cue ball path and speed. This is another example of taking an extra couple seconds and walking around and finding the appropriate angle. At this angle, it may be difficult to pocket the ball and play a position. This would be the angle that would work best. At this angle, I can pocket the 3-ball and send the cue ball toward the 4-ball. And when you walk around and find the angle you need, it may help to visualize a line running through the object ball. So in this case, the line would go to this spot on the end route. Now when I get back to the shot, it's easy to visualize a line since I know where it crosses the end route. In this video, I'm going to show you a great drill for quickly improving your break shot, whether the game is 8-ball or 9-ball. One reason many players don't practice their break shot is the amount of time it takes to set up the rack for each shot. Since most players have a limited amount of practice time, setting up the rack for each break tends to eat up a lot of time. So what happens is that the player doesn't spend as much time as they should practicing their break shot. So without sufficient practice time, the player's break shot is inconsistent, resulting in weak breaks or loss of cue ball control. If there's one shot in pool that requires practice, it's the break shot, since it becomes more difficult to control the cue ball once a player starts ramping up their speed. The key to any good break shot, whether it's 9-ball or 8-ball, is to transmit all of the cue ball's energy to the rack of balls. For instance, in this break, I've struck the 1-ball full, which transmits all of the cue ball's energy to the rack, which kills the cue ball's momentum. But what usually happens with many players is that once they start ramping up their speed when breaking, their cue ball accuracy starts to suffer, and they usually end up not striking the 1-ball full. This usually causes a much weaker spread of the balls and loss of cue ball control. When playing in leagues or tournaments, it's essential that you know two things about your break. Number one, you need to know your true break speed. This is the maximum speed at which you can break the balls while still retaining control of the cue ball. And number two, you need to know your true aim on power breaks. And we'll be discussing this in a bit, but this essentially means fine-tuning your aim on power breaks to regain control of the cue ball, which results in better table spreads. So the first thing we're going to do in this video is to try and find your true break speed. And before we begin, it may help to have a speed app like this, which is made by Predator. This app records the actual speed of the break, which will make it a bit easier to fine-tune your break speed. When you perform this drill, you won't be using a full rack of balls. We're only going to place 1 ball on the spot to represent the rack. This will allow the player to quickly go through several break shots in the time it takes to rack the balls, which will help maximize the player's practice time. So place an object ball on the spot, then place the cue ball in your normal break position on the table. So if you normally break from this area, go ahead and place the cue ball in this location. In this exercise, I'm going to place the cue ball along the side rail in my normal 9-ball break position. I'm now going to perform a series of break shots to find my true break speed. In order to find your true break speed, start off with a much lower speed, about half of what your normal break speed is. The goal on these shots is to minimize any cue ball movement after striking the object ball. A little movement is fine, but too much movement, like this, means you didn't strike the object ball full. If you're losing control of the cue ball, keep taking your speed down until you get your cue ball under control. Also, if you're striking the object ball and your cue ball is rolling forward, try reshooting the shot at the same speed, but aim just a little lower on the cue ball. If you're striking the object ball and the cue ball is drawing backward, keep the speed the same but start aiming a little higher. The key to this drill is locking in your speed first, then fine-tuning where you need to aim on the cue ball. So according to the Break app, my speed is around 10 miles per hour. At this speed I have full control of the cue ball, which results in little if any movement after striking the object ball. After several successful break shots, I'm now going to gradually start ramping up my break speed. The next few shots will be at a faster break speed, around 15 miles an hour. Once again, the goal is to limit the amount of cue ball movement. When performing this drill, make sure you really take your time aiming. Another benefit of this type of exercise is that it trains you how to keep your break speed consistent, and learning the subtle differences between a break shot of 10 miles an hour and a break shot of 15 miles an hour. So at around 15 miles an hour, I'm still able to control the cue ball. Now I'm going to start increasing the speed to around 17 miles an hour. At this speed it becomes a little more work to kill the cue ball. Really take your time aiming. It's important that you're aiming to strike the object ball as full as possible. You'll want to perform several successful break shots in a row before moving on. Now we're going to ramp the speed up to around 19 or 20 miles an hour. At this speed there is much more cue ball movement. Trying to strike the object ball full becomes much more difficult. It may help to put a pillow against the cushion, just to make sure the object ball doesn't fly out the table. So after several attempts, it's clear that at this speed I'm losing control of the cue ball, which will result in weaker breaks and possibly scratching. If you're using a speed app, make sure you write down at what speed you start to lose control of the cue ball. At 17 miles an hour, I'm still able to control the cue ball. So 17 miles an hour is the maximum speed at which I'm still able to control the cue ball. So this would be my true break speed. Once you know your true break speed, make sure you spend some time practicing this speed so you can burn it into your memory. If you're in a tournament match, especially in a 9-ball tournament, this is the speed you'll want to start breaking at. If you're having success at this speed, then there's no reason to increase your speed and possibly losing control of the cue ball. Many professional players slow their break shot way down, especially when playing 9-ball on a bar table. If they can pocket balls at this slow speed, they'll have much better control over the cue ball's path, and they may even start playing position on their first ball on the break. Another advantage is that they can use their shooting cue instead of their break cue. And when working with students, once we find their true break speed, even though it's less speed than their normal break shot, they soon find that they're getting better table spreads with much better cue ball control. Next, we're going to find your true aim on power breaks. For example, I'm now going to go back to breaking at 19 and 20 miles per hour, even though my cue ball control suffers at this speed. But this time when I perform the break shot at this speed, I'm going to monitor the path the cue ball takes after contact with the object ball. So after several break shots at this speed, the cue ball struck the left side rail off the object ball almost 100% of the time. What this tells me is that when I attempt this power break, I have a tendency to miss-hit the cue ball slightly, sending it to the left side of the object ball. And this is true for almost any player when they attempt power breaks. Their cue ball will usually favor one side or another. It may not be 100% of the time, but more times than not, it will head toward one specific rail. This time when I aim toward the object ball, I'm going to aim to strike the right side of the ball. Since my cue ball has a tendency to go off course slightly to the left, this time when I break, I should be striking the object ball more full. And it may take a few times until you fine-tune where you need to strike the object ball and where you need to aim on the cue ball. But it shouldn't take that long to start getting your cue ball under control. Once your cue ball is under control, make note of this aiming adjustment. What's great about this exercise is that it allows a player to quickly practice their break shot without having to rack the balls. When practicing this break drill, make sure you really spend time on developing a feel for your true break speed. After a while, you should be able to repeat this speed over and over again. Performing this drill, even for 10 or 15 minutes every time you practice pull, will drastically improve your cue ball control on the break shot. Here's a quick tip for getting more power on the break. If you study power breakers like Francisco Bustamante, you'll notice that on his backstroke, his wrist is turned all the way back. By doing this, he creates a wrist snap on impact with the cue ball that increases his cue ball's speed. So the next time you break, when you're practicing your warm-up strokes, open your wrist completely at the end of your backstroke. Then close it as the tip returns to the cue ball. The timing of this is important. We don't want the wrist snap happening here. We want it happening here when the tip returns to the cue ball. It takes a bit of practice, but once you have it down, it will definitely increase your break speed, resulting in much better spreads. Beginner players should perform long aiming strokes since it helps create a rhythm for their stroking motion. But for a player who has been playing pool for a while, they need to start incorporating micro strokes, which keep the tip closer to the cue ball. By keeping the tip closer to the cue ball, it's easier to make subtle adjustments when aiming. One student mentioned that their aiming strokes are the same speed that they're going to be using for their shot. So on shots that required more speed, they would have to speed up their aiming. And the opposite was true for extremely soft shots. The speed of the shot should be determined when standing. As you come down on the table and begin aiming, your whole focus should be on making sure the shot is lined up and trusting the game plan that you've created. The key to running out is landing on the correct side of each pocket line. This is true to a point, but pull at the highest of levels is more than just landing on the correct side of the pocket line. It's about landing at the correct angle on the correct side of the pocket line. This is position play at the highest of levels. One of the skills needed to bridge the gap from good player to strong player is the ability to know which angle offers the best chance of landing at your target area. For example, in this 8-ball game, the player at the table is shooting solids. The goal is to pocket the 5 ball and land in the position window for shaping the 1 ball, so they can send the cue ball toward the top side rail for shaping the 8 ball. But within this position window, there are, of course, several angles. Landing at these angles means the player will have to use maximum high to drive the cue ball forward, then use right spin to send the cue ball along the correct path. At these angles, the player can use more of a rolling cue ball, using the precise amount of right spin to control the path. And at this angle, the player can shoot softly with just center high. So this angle would be considered the ideal angle, since the path off the object ball naturally heads toward the target area. And since the player is shooting softly, it's much easier for them to control the speed of the shot, making this type of shot very repeatable. So what defines an ideal angle, and how do you find the ideal angle? Ideal angles for rolling shots like this example here allow you to shoot softly, and the angle helps move the cue ball towards your target area. Since we're not using a lot of force to move the cue ball around the table, we can really focus on controlling the path of the cue ball just by using left or right spin, as in these examples. I'm going to go through several examples of ideal angles for rolling shots, and then I'm going to discuss ideal angles for stun shots. And along the way, we'll go through some drills that will help you find ideal angles. If we re-examine this runout, Shane was very specific about his angle in the 6 ball since he knew he needed to land at this angle for the 7 ball. He chose this angle in the 7 ball because it required a soft stroke to play position for the 8 ball. Now compare this angle in the 7 ball to this angle, which requires a little more effort to play position for the 8 ball, since Shane would be striking more of the 7 ball. When Shane picked his angle in the 6 ball, he wasn't picking an angle that would send the cue ball toward the center of the table and just accept any angle on the 7 ball. He picked an angle in the 6 ball that would send the cue ball to this specific angle on the 7 ball. If we move the cue ball here or even here, now in order to end up at this precise target, it's going to require a little more work. Simplifying patterns is how the elite players perform at a high level game after game, match after match. And you'll sometimes see amateur players who are good shot makers who shoot quickly and don't play precise angles. They can still play good pool, but playing this way will ultimately prevent them from reaching an even higher level. But if we study the elite players, and I'm talking about the top 20 players in the world, they are very specific about what angle they would like for each ball. It doesn't mean that they're always going to land at this angle, but this is their game plan with each shot. Now let's go through several examples of finding the ideal angle for a rolling shot. In this example, we need to play the 8 ball in this top side pocket. Before shooting the 5 ball, I'm first going to make an educated guess as to which angle will take the cue ball to the bottom side rail near the 8 ball pocket line. So now when I shoot the 5 ball, my goal is to land on or very close to this natural angle. Now I can softly roll in the 2 ball and the angle will send the cue ball toward the position area for the 8 ball. The advantage of playing for ideal angles in situations like this is that even if you end up near the angle, as I did here, I can still roll in the object ball and use a touch of right spin to land in my target area. You'll often see top players play for angles like this when they have to go across the table for a position. As in this game where Cole has to pocket the 9 ball and play position for the 10 ball at the other end of the table. He created an angle that would allow him to shoot softly but still reach his target area. The elite players understand the connection between angles and distance. If they have to travel across the table, they try to choose angles where the angles help them move the cue ball to their target area. This allows them to shoot with a softer stroke, giving them better control over path and speed. Ideal angles are most beneficial when the position shot requires extremely precise cue ball speed, as in this 8 ball layout where we have to pocket the 1 ball and land in our target area for shape on the 3 ball. At this angle in the 1 ball, the angle is helping to send the cue ball toward the target area with a soft stroke. It doesn't mean it's doing all the work, we still have to be precise in our cue ball speed, but since the angle is helping us, this shot becomes much easier to execute than if the cue ball were at this angle. At this angle, the same soft stroke only sends the cue ball to this area. So if this were the situation, before shooting the 5 ball, we'll first find the ideal angle for the 1 ball, which is right here. Now when we pocket the 5 ball, the goal is to land on or very close to this angle. In this game of 8 ball, we're on the 3 ball. We need to create an angle in the 1 ball that we can use to play position for the 8 ball. One option is to land here, then shoot the 1 ball softly, sending the cue ball in this direction. While this isn't a bad option, since the angle is helping to move the cue ball to the target area, due to the distance between the 1 ball and cue ball, there is a chance of accidentally striking too little or too much of the 1 ball, which will drastically change the cue ball path. A slightly better option is to land near the end rail. This shot is preferred over the previous option since we're now closer to the 1 ball, which gives us a better chance of striking the proper amount of the 1 ball. Also at this angle we can shoot softly with running English, sending the cue ball toward our target area on the side rail. And once you have this shot down, this type of shot is very repeatable. In this game, Dennis has ball in hand on the 5 ball, and the 6 ball is next to the corner pocket. He could play position here and take a high angle on the 6 ball, but instead he sends a cue ball to the end rail near the 6 ball. This now allows him to softly roll in the 6 ball, creating his position for the 7 ball. In this 8 ball layout, what we're looking for is an angle in the 12 ball that will send the cue ball toward the end rail for position on the 8 ball. With every shot, you're first going to see if the ideal angle is available. And if it's not available, then you go to the next best angle. At this angle, a soft rolling shot will send the cue ball toward the end rail for a position on the 8 ball. This is the ideal angle since this angle allows the player to shoot softly, but still control the cue ball path by how much or how little of the object ball they strike. And you can try this out for yourself. Place a ball by the side pocket and practice sending the cue ball to different targets along the end rail. And remember, when shooting these shots, the path of the cue ball is determined by how much of the object ball you are striking. To strike targets further down on the rail, you're going to strike as much of the object ball as possible, shooting below center with a soft stroke. In this game of 10 ball, Kulpin Chung is on the 5 ball, and he needs to create an angle on the 6 ball that will send the cue ball to the end rail for a position on the 7 ball. What he's looking for is an angle on the 6 ball that will allow him to shoot softly and send the cue ball in this direction. And we can see that he didn't land on this angle, but he did land close enough, which means he can still use a soft stroke when pocketing the 6 ball. In this game of 8 ball, we need to create an angle on the 2 ball that will take the cue ball to the end rail for shape on the 8 ball. Since the path toward this target is narrow, we really need to land on the ideal angle to give us the best chance of running out. So before shooting the 7 ball, I'm going to find the ideal angle on the 2 ball, which is right here. Now I could play the shot this way and get closer to the 2 ball, but in situations like this where position on the 8 ball is tight, playing the proper angle on the 2 ball is more important than playing close position. So a better option is to just play a kill shot, which will guarantee that I end up on the ideal angle. Now a soft shot on the 2 ball sends a cue ball in the proper direction. In this 8 ball game, we're on our last 2 stripes and we need to figure out the best way to get position for the 8 ball. We could roll forward and take this angle in the 15 ball, but this way of playing position wouldn't be the first choice of a strong player. Due to the distance, it won't take much to strike too much of the object ball or not enough of the object ball, which drastically affects the cue ball path. In this case, the ideal angle would be right here, since the shot is still very makeable, but the angle is helping move the cue ball toward our target area. So if we do land on this angle, we just need a soft stroke along with a touch of right spin to control the cue ball path. Now when I pocket the 12 ball, my goal is to land on or very close to this angle. Here I've landed close to this angle, which means I can still use a soft stroke and use right spin to control the cue ball path. The other advantage of playing position this way is that the cue ball is closer to the object ball, which will give you a better chance of striking the correct amount of the 15 ball. This way of playing position is very repeatable once you have this shot down. So instead of just shooting balls into pockets when you're practicing, really try to lock in on the ideal angle for your next object ball. What you'll discover is that even landing close to this angle will leave you in excellent position to play shape for your next ball. When players play by themselves or with their friends, they fall into the bad habit of just playing general areas with their cue ball instead of choosing specific angles. The more you play with a specific purpose on each shot, the more it will become part of your game and help propel you to an even higher level. In this 8 ball game, we're playing solids and we need to create an angle on the 5 ball that will send the cue ball toward the end rail for position on the 8 ball. So on this shot, we have 2 choices. We can create a stun angle where we send the cue ball through the opening and toward the end rail. As I've mentioned in the past, when performing stun shots, both speed and where you strike the cue ball have to be in sync to control the exact path of the cue ball. On shots like this that require precise control of the cue ball path, you would first look for the ideal angle. At this angle, a soft rolling shot will naturally send the cue ball toward the position area. Recognizing where the ideal angle is just a matter of setting up object balls and trying to predict the exact path of the cue ball. The more time you spend trying to predict the path the cue ball will take with a rolling cue ball, the better your instinct will become. And when you first try these drills, you'll be using just center high and no side spin. It's important you develop a feel for the natural path without side spin first. So if you're in competition, you would visualize a natural path first, then determine how much side spin, if any, you'll need to play position for your next ball. For example, in this 8-ball game, the player is on the 1 ball and needs to create an angle in the 5 ball to get on the 8 ball. The position window for the 5 ball is very large, but if we can find the natural path off the object ball, a soft rolling shot with no side spin will float the cue ball toward the bottom side rail for a position on the 8 ball. So my goal in this shot is to land on or close to this ideal angle. Developing a feel for natural angles really comes in handy when the path off the next ball is very narrow, as in this 8-ball game where the player needs to create an angle in the 2 ball to send the cue ball to the end rail for shaping the 8 ball. The angle that requires the least amount of effort is right here. At this angle, a soft rolling shot will send the cue ball along the correct path. And when we shoot this shot, we can either send the cue ball directly to this angle, or we can send the cue ball directly off the end rail. Going off the end rail ensures that we at least cross the 2-ball pocket line. Ideal angles can be found in all shots, even situations like this where we'll be sending the cue ball 4 rails for a position. In this game of 8-ball, we're on the 1 ball, we need to pocket the 2 ball and play position for the 8 ball. This is where angle awareness really comes into play. Before shooting the 1 ball, I'm going to find the ideal angle on the 2 ball to go 4 rails for a position on the 8 ball. A player with experience knows this angle on the 2 ball can be shot with maximum right spin, and the cue ball will be sent toward the second diamond on the bottom side rail. So now when I shoot the 1 ball, my goal is to land on or very close to this angle. Now if we perform the same shot with less angle, now the cue ball heads toward the 15 ball. And now we have even more angle on the object ball, which means it's going to hit too high up on the bottom side rail. Now it doesn't mean you can't still play position from these angles, it's just going to require more effort than if you had landed at the ideal angle. And choosing ideal angles is extremely important when you have to go across the table using maximum high. As mentioned earlier, maximum high tends to push the cue ball forward due to extra revolutions on the cue ball. Anything below maximum high and above center tends to follow more closely to the tangent line of the object ball. Let's examine this 8-ball layout. The player at the table is shooting solids and needs to create an angle in the 3 ball that will send the cue ball to his target area for the 8 ball. At this angle, maximum high with no side spin will send the cue ball to our position area for the 8 ball. So this would be the ideal angle for the 3 ball to get position for the 8 ball. Ending up close to this angle still leaves us a nice angle that we can use to get on the 8 ball. Now if we didn't zero in on what angle we wanted when we shot the 1 ball, we could have easily ended up here, or even here, leaving us an awkward angle to get on the 8 ball. Here's another example of finding the ideal angle using maximum high. In this 8-ball game, we'll be sending the cue ball 3 rails for a position on the 8 ball. What we're looking for is an angle where maximum high and left spin will send the cue ball to the position area. So before shooting the 3 ball, we're going to make an educated guess as to which angle works best. At this angle, the cue ball will naturally be sent toward our position area using maximum high and left spin. And one of the advantages of this ideal angle is that you get a very consistent path, so this shot is very repeatable. Now ending up here at this angle will send the cue ball too high up on the side rail. We can still use this angle to get our position, but it requires a stun follow shot, which takes a little more skill to execute. So now when we pocket the 3 ball, the goal is to land on or close to the ideal angle. Now let's examine a typical 9-ball game, and for each ball I'm going to be very deliberate about what angle I select. And it doesn't mean I'm always going to land at this angle, but my goal will be to land on or as close as possible to this angle. And the more you practice trying to land at ideal angles, the more it becomes a natural part of your game. So before shooting the 1 ball, I'm going to find my ideal angle for the 2 ball. This angle in the 2 ball will naturally send the cue ball to the bottom side rail for position on the 3 ball. If I can land around here for the 3 ball, I can go 2 rails for shaping the 4 ball for the side pocket. Now when I shoot the 1 ball, the goal is to land on or extremely close to this angle. And as a general rule, the farther away I end up from this angle, the more side spin I'll need to use to send the cue ball along the correct path. The closer I can get to this ideal angle, the less side spin I'm going to need. So here I've landed extremely close to the ideal angle, so a rolling cue ball should give me position for the 3 ball. Before I shoot the 3 ball, I'm going to find my ideal angle for the 4 ball. The ideal angle in the 4 ball is landing just across the pocket line, where I can pocket the 4 ball and draw back for my angle on the 5 ball. If I end up short of the pocket line, I can send the cue ball off the top side rail for position on the 5 ball. So I've landed a bit short of the ideal angle, but at this angle I can send the cue ball off the side rail and back for shape on the 5 ball. Before shooting the 4 ball, I'll first find the ideal angle for the 5 ball. At this angle, a soft rolling shot will send the cue ball across the 6 ball pocket line. So the goal is to pocket the 4 ball and land on or close to this ideal angle. I've landed on the angle, so now a rolling shot should give me proper position for the 6 ball. Before we play position for the 7 ball, we need to determine what angle we would like for the 8 ball. An angle like this would be ideal since a soft rolling shot with running English will send the cue ball 2 or 3 rails for position on the 9 ball. So an angle like this in the 7 ball will allow us to roll it in and send the cue ball to our target area near the side rail. Finding ideal angles is all about curiosity. It means setting up shots like this, then trying to determine which angle, without side spin, will send the cue ball to the side rail for position on the 8 ball. And once you find the ideal angle, shoot it a few times to really burn this angle into your memory bank. Then shoot the shot from other angles using side spin to control the cue ball path. Then move the 3 ball to another location and once again find the ideal angle to send the cue ball to the top side rail for position. The second type of ideal angle involves stun shots. And when I talk about stun shots, I'm talking about controlling the amount of top spin and low spin, if any, by the time the cue ball strikes the object ball. For example, in order to play a stop shot with low spin, the low spin needs to last all the way to this point. Then, before it begins rolling, the 11 ball begins sliding. When it contacts a 3 ball full while sliding, the 11 ball will stop. On this shot, we'll land the cue ball on the target using a firm speed. We'll strike the 11 ball just above center, which causes just enough rotation on the 11 ball to land on the target. So the main difference between stun and rolling shots is that where you strike the cue ball and the speed of the shot both have to be in sync to execute the shot successfully. When it comes to stun shots, there is usually an ideal angle that you have to become familiar with. If we examine this simple layout, the player is playing solids and needs to create an angle in the 5 ball to pocket the 8 ball in the top side pocket. The ideal angle, of course, is landing on the pocket line, then playing a stop shot. But ideal angles are determined by the situation. If we try to land on the pocket line from here, the danger is going a couple inches too far. The ideal angle would be this angle here, which is in the center of the position zone, which allows us to kill the cue ball. Since coming up short or going a bit too far still leaves us an angle that allows us to kill the cue ball. Even if we end up at this angle, we can still use maximum low with right spin to hold the cue ball. In this 8 ball layout, we're on the 3 ball, we need to create an angle in the 5 ball that we can use to get our shape for the 8 ball. And when we're talking about ideal angles for stun shots, a rule of thumb to remember is that you want an angle where the shot is still very makeable, but the angle is still helping move the cue ball to the position area. So an angle like this in the 5-ball wouldn't be ideal, since from here the angle isn't helping to move the cue ball to the position area. On this shot you would have to use a power stroke to move the cue ball away from the bottom side rail. Now if the 13-ball weren't here, then this angle works using maximum high and left spin. The ideal angle is here. At this angle the shot is still very makeable, but the angle is helping move the cue ball to the position area. And if we end up with a little more angle, we can use a soft rolling shot to play position. So when playing the 3-ball, our goal is to land on the ideal angle, since coming up short or going a little too far still leaves a makeable shot to play position. This angle also works for shots like this, where we're sending the cue ball 2 rails. In this 8-ball game, we need to create an angle in the 5-ball that we can use to send the cue ball to the middle of the table for shape on the 8-ball. The ideal angle would be this angle here in the middle of our position zone. At this angle, it's flat enough to create a makeable shot, but there is enough angle to help move the cue ball to the halfway point of the table. This is a common angle for this type of shot for the top professionals. The angle helps move the cue ball, but it's also flat enough, which allows them to pull the cue ball farther back if needed. In this game of 8-ball, we're playing solids and we need to create an angle in the 3-ball for the bottom side pocket. The window for this position shot is very large. Ending up at any of these angles allows me to pocket the 3-ball and get on the 8-ball. At this angle, however, we're going to have to perform a power shot, since the angle isn't helping to move the cue ball to our position area. And at this angle, we're going to have to use maximum load to send the cue ball along the correct path. In this situation, we can get away with ending up at any of these angles to get on the 8-ball. But if the path toward the 8-ball becomes narrow, now trying to control the exact path from these angles is extremely difficult. The ideal angle for a shot like this is right around 30 degrees. At this angle, we're striking around 50% of the object ball, so the angle will help move the cue ball, and at the same time, we're striking enough of the object ball to send the cue ball in any of these cue ball paths, which means if our path toward the position area requires precise control of the cue ball, this would be the ideal angle. And this type of angle on object balls for side pockets is fairly common due to the amount of control the player has over the cue ball path. As a general rule, the farther you end up from the ideal angle, the more side spin you'll need to use when it comes to rolling shots like in this situation. In this 10-ball game, we're on the 1-ball, we need to create an angle in the 2-ball that will send the cue ball around the 3-ball. So before shooting the 1-ball, I'm going to make an educated guess as to which angle is ideal. At this angle, I can softly roll in the 2-ball with just center high, and the cue ball will float around the 3-ball. One of the main advantages of ideal angles like this is that you get a consistent cue ball path shot after shot. So now my goal when shooting the 1-ball is to land on or close to this angle. Now trying to land precisely on an angle is very difficult. The goal is to try to land on or close to this angle, since the farther I end up from this angle, the more difficult the position shot becomes for the 3-ball. I ended up fairly close to the ideal angle, so now a center high rolling shot will send the cue ball around the 3-ball. Ending up here means I'll have to use right spin to send the cue ball in the proper direction. And if I go too far on this side of the ideal angle, now I'm going to have to use a left spin to control the cue ball path. If you tend to lose concentration when you're down on the table, here's a great trick that should help you better focus. Before coming down on the table, visualize the cue ball path. Now when you're down on the table, as you begin aiming, keep visualizing this path. Visualizing the path keeps your mind busy so it won't wander. Also, by visualizing the cue ball path when you're down on the table, it helps your brain lock in on exactly what speed you'll need for the shot. Visualizing the cue ball path is extremely important for a number of reasons. If we examine this shot, I can pocket the 5-ball and land here for the 8-ball. The problem is that there are 3 different ways to play position for the 8-ball. I can use a soft rolling shot with maximum left spin. I can use a draw stroke, and I can use a stun shot, sending the cue ball off the side rail and toward the 8 ball. And each one requires a different hit on the cue ball. So I'll first decide which option to use, which in this case is a soft rolling shot with maximum left spin. Now I'll try to visualize the path the cue ball needs to take. This path tells me what speed and spin I'll need to use. And as I get down on the table, I'm going to keep visualizing this path to keep my focus on my cue ball speed. Visualizing the cue ball path before you get down on the table helps you determine where you need to strike the cue ball along with what speed you'll need to use. And on shots like this, it also gives you a target on the side rail to send the cue ball toward. Now if I hadn't visualized my path and realized my target on the side rail was here, I may have used too much side spin, which sends the cue ball in this direction. Visualizing the cue ball path takes practice, but once you have it down, it really helps with your concentration and speed control. When working with students who are inconsistent at pool and can't seem to improve, there are usually a few issues going on in their game. So when they first arrive, I'll examine their fundamentals: stance, alignment, and stroke. And then we break the stroke down into its different elements: aiming strokes, backstroke speed and length, transition, acceleration speed and length, tip placement, and follow through. As mentioned earlier in Secrets 4, beginner players should perform long aiming strokes since it helps create a rhythm for their stroking motion. But for a player who has been playing pool for a while, they need to start incorporating micro strokes, which keep the tip closer to the cue ball. By keeping the tip closer to the cue ball, it's easier to make subtle adjustments when aiming. Next, I examine the backstroke. Without knowing it, a player's backstroke and speed may not be in sync. For example, their backstroke may be too long for a shot that requires a soft speed, or their backstroke may be too short for a shot that requires a firm speed. So before the player gets down on the table, I have them determine the speed of the shot, along with a backstroke length that will work with this speed. Another issue that players have is their backstroke speed is too quick, resulting in their transition from backstroke to forward stroke breaking down. If you study the elite players, you'll notice that they tend to have a smooth transition from backstroke to forward stroke. It's this full completion of the backstroke that helps create a powerful and consistent stroke. And in a couple minutes, I'm going to be showing you a great drill for improving this part of your game. Next is acceleration speed, and this is a powerful part of the game, and it's what allows players to use a compact stroke to increase accuracy. For example, if we examine top professionals, the backstroke length will differ from professional to professional, but even though their backstroke lengths are different, they both reach the same speed at the moment of impact, and this is possible through the use of acceleration speed. Let's examine this shot where I'll be using a power draw shot to send the cue ball off the end rail. On the first shot, I'm going to be using a long backstroke to perform the shot. And on the next attempt, I'm going to be using a much shorter backstroke and use an acceleration speed to complete the shot. While both backstrokes are different lengths, they both reach the same speed at the moment of impact. And for players that don't have much time to practice, converting to a compact stroke may solve many of their issues. A shorter backstroke increases the likelihood that the player will strike the cue ball where they are aiming, as opposed to a longer backstroke which has to stay on the exact line of the shot much longer. In Chapter 1, we discuss one of the most important parts of the stroke, which is how the cue stick drives through the cue ball. And while there are many different styles of professional strokes, straight bridge arm, bent bridge arm, slide elbow movement, and large elbow movement, the main objective of all these strokes is to drive the cue stick through the cue ball where they are aiming. It's this drive through the cue ball that allows these players to move the cue ball around the table with less effort than someone who uses more power but with less drive through the cue ball. And when working with a student, I first examine where their acceleration begins to decelerate. A player who has a problem with drawing the cue ball may be stroking the shot correctly, but the end of their acceleration is happening too soon. If we examine their acceleration, it ramps up and peaks right at the moment of impact before it begins the deceleration. When this happens, there will be little or no drive through the cue ball. And if the player is off even a little bit in their tip placement from the cue ball, their deceleration may even happen before impact with the cue ball. And this is typically common with a player who has very little elbow movement. In order to fix this, we need to move the end of their acceleration to this point. This will ensure that their tip is now going to drive through the cue ball. And the player can achieve this either by dropping their elbow, or if they have a compact stroke, they can bend their elbow, which pulls their body slightly closer to the cue ball, which in turn moves the end of their acceleration further into the cue ball. This now ensures that their cue stick is driving through the cue ball. Next, we examine their tip distance from the cue ball. A few students will sometimes strike the cue ball while aiming due to their tip being too close to the cue ball. Or some students will have their tip too far from the cue ball, which makes being precise with their tip placement on the cue ball much more difficult. So when performing the stroke drill, we place the tip about the distance of a cube of chalk away from the cue ball. Then we use the shadow of the tip to mark the felt. Now the student has a way to check the tip distance from the cue ball when down on the shot. As mentioned in Chapter 1, if you have a stroke that has very slight elbow movement, then tip distance from cue ball is extremely important, since you're not going to have the same drive through the cue ball as a player who has significant elbow movement. Next, we focus on the follow-through, and having good follow-through is a direct result of proper acceleration. During the stroke drill, this part of the stroke is exaggerated, which forces the player to truly accelerate through the cue ball. And you can check your own follow-through by placing a ball on a spot and aiming it toward the corner pocket at a firm speed. After the shot, observe the location of your cue's tip. Ideally, it should have traveled past this spot. On occasion, I'll coach a student whose cue tip stays near the spot after the shot. This indicates that they're abruptly halting the momentum of their cue stick at the moment of impact. In high-pressure situations, or when the player is unsure of their shot, they might unintentionally start slowing the cue stick before impact with the cue ball in anticipation of halting the cue stick's progress. This often leads to missed shots or a loss of control over the cue ball speed. The following drill not only focuses on the transition between backstroke and forward stroke, but it will also help your follow-through if this is an issue you may be having. And when I work with students who have a limited time during the week to practice, I have them create a more compact stroke with a shorter backstroke and focus on good transition and forward acceleration using the following drill. We're going to throw several balls out on the table, and then we're going to take ball in hand. Now, as we shoot each shot, I want you to focus on these areas of your stroke. Before you come down on the shot, determine what speed you're going to use. And once you're down on the table, begin aiming the shot as you normally would. Next, pause the tip at the cue ball before beginning your backstroke. Now, as you perform the backstroke, I really want you to focus on pulling the cue stick straight back. Focus on completing the backstroke before beginning the forward stroke. Now in the forward stroke, we're going to accelerate the cue stick, reaching the proper speed at the moment of impact. Now follow through, keeping the tip above the felt or on the felt. Keep your head and body still until the object ball goes into the pocket. And if you miss a shot, you still want to remain still. If you can perform this drill for 30 minutes before leagues or tournaments, you will definitely see an overall improvement in your play. But as I mentioned, even practicing this drill for 10 minutes will have positive results. And once you're in competition, then focus entirely on ball pocketing and cue ball position and not the mechanics of the stroke. What you'll find is that your transition between the backstroke and forward stroke is much smoother. But it doesn't mean this is a permanent change. You're still going to have to take time out during your practice sessions to perform this drill to help reinforce this part of the game. This drill, along with the stroke drill, as outlined in Chapter 1 of this video, will have a dramatic impact on your ability to pocket balls and play position. In this 8-ball game, we're on our last solid, but it's an extremely difficult shot to not only pocket, but to also play position for the 8-ball. So when I come down on the shot, I not only have to figure out where to aim on the object ball, but I also have to figure out what spin to use, if any, to send the cue ball along the correct path. So when I finally lock in on the shot, my cue stick may be slightly angled due to the amount of tip adjustment I've done on the cue ball. At this point, I'm going to remember both my tip location on the cue ball as well as the contact point on the object ball. Now I'm going to stand back up and perform a few practice strokes visualizing the cue ball path. Now when I come back down on the shot, I'm going to place my tip at the proper cue ball location and once again lock in on my contact point of the object ball. Now my cue stick is in a much better position to perform a natural stroke. Here's another example of lining up a difficult shot first, then standing back up and resetting. Now when I get down, I have a much better idea of where to strike the cue ball. When working with students, especially students who have been playing pool for many years, this is the area of the game that usually needs the most work. One trap players sometimes fall into is blaming their stroke for inconsistent play. I've worked with numerous students who complain of having a crooked stroke, and while a few have stroke issues that need to be dealt with, the majority of the time their crooked stroke comes from shooting shots that aren't in their shot repertoire. For example, one of my last students said his stroke keeps going offline. I then watched him play, and for several shots his stroke worked perfectly. But then he came across a shot that required very precise control of the cue ball, and it was on this shot that the player's stroke went offline. Since this shot wasn't in his shot repertoire, he became anxious, which caused him to steer the cue stick. And when training students, it's fairly easy to find which shots aren't in the player's repertoire. They usually steer their cue stick or they jump up on the shot. It's at this point that we stop what we're doing and we have them shoot the shot over and over again so they can learn how to shoot it properly. Then we write the shot down so they can practice it when they get back home. In order to reach a high level in pool, you need to be adding at least 20 shots per month to your repertoire. Players wrongly assume that if they just perfect their stroke, that they'll be able to pocket most shots. In order to add a shot to your repertoire, you have to know what spin to use, if any, where to aim, along with developing a feel for the proper speed. And developing proper feel in pool is a result of repetition. In order to learn a new shot, you need to shoot it over and over again until you develop a feel for how to shoot it. And what you'll find out is that when you learn a new shot, it will positively affect other shots that are similar. When someone talks about short side position, they're talking about playing a ball into the pocket furthest away. For example, in this game, the player can pocket the 5 in either corner pocket. If the player plays short side position, that means they'll be playing position for this corner pocket. And the same is true for this situation where the player can pocket the 4 ball into either corner pocket. Playing position here means they played short side position. A good rule to remember is that playing short side position is a good idea when you don't have to do too much with the cue ball to have position for your next shot. For example, in this 10-ball game, if we play short side position on the 5 ball, I don't have to do too much to have position for the 6 ball. But if the 6 ball were here, now the position window on this side of the 5 ball shrinks dramatically. The position window for the other corner pocket is much larger, so in this situation the best option is to pocket the 4 ball in the corner pocket. And the same is true for this situation. If the 5 ball were here, now the position window on the 4 ball is very large, since the 5 ball is close to the side pocket, making position fairly easy. Now if the 5 ball were here, the window for short side position really shrinks. The position window on the other side of the 4 ball is larger, since we can land above the pocket line or on the other side of the pocket line like this. From here we can send the cue ball 2 rails toward the bottom side rail for position. When we talk about center ball training, we're talking about working on these different parts of the game. Everything from finding center in the cue ball to drills for maximum draw and maximum follow. The first drill would be finding center on the cue ball. If the student doesn't know where true center is on the cue ball, they may struggle when it comes to ball pocketing and cue ball control. Next, the student goes through a series of drills for rolling shots. Learning where the cue ball is going off an object ball with a rolling cue ball is a major part of position play. Next, we have several stun drills that cover stop shots, sliding cue ball shots off the tangent line, stun draw, and stun follow. These drills are tough, but the benefits are enormous. Next, we have several drills that cover maximum high. This is an extremely important part of the center ball training, and I have a whole video dedicated to maximum high on YouTube. I'll put a link to it in the description. Next, we have drills and patterns for maximum low. Maximum low is all about learning how to hit the sweet spot on the cue ball. As with all students of the 14 days experiment, before we begin any center ball drills, we spend 15 to 20 hours working on a stroke drill. This is a great drill for straightening your stroke since a student has to keep their cue above the stroke line for up to 2,000 times. To learn more about this, I'll put a link in the description. So once I feel the students' fundamentals have improved, we then move on to center ball training. When working with students, we first make sure they know where center is before we begin any drills. One drill that we use is to place the 9-ball and object ball fairly close to each other. We'll then make sure number 9 is at the very top. Now we'll strike the center of the 9-ball using a firm stroke. If we strike center, there should be minimal cue ball movement. The number 9 should still be at the top of the ball. If the 9-ball is coming back a little bit, that means we're striking just below center. If the cue ball is rolling forward, then we're striking above center. Also, make sure the 9-ball isn't spinning after striking the object ball. If it is, that means your tip is just left or right of center, depending on which way the ball is spinning. When we talk about stun shots, we're talking about controlling the amount of roll or low spin on the cue ball, if any, by the time it strikes the object ball. This is what allows players to play a stop shot from different distances. From this distance, I need just enough low spin to last until this point here. Then, before the cue ball begins to roll forward, there will be a brief moment where it is sliding. It is at this moment that we need the cue ball to strike the object ball full in order to stop the cue ball. Now from this distance, in order to stop the cue ball, the low spin has to last all the way to this area before it begins to slide. This means I'll need to use a firm speed along with striking very low on the cue ball. By the time the cue ball gets here, the low spin is completely gone. Now, before it starts rolling forward, there will be a brief moment when the cue ball is sliding, so that's when we need it to strike the object ball. And if it strikes the object ball full, the cue ball should come to a complete stop. Here's a similar shot, except this time the cue ball won't be striking the object ball full. When I shoot this shot, just like the previous stop shot, I'm going to use enough low spin to last all the way to this point. Now, when the cue ball strikes the object ball, it should be sliding, which will send it along a 90-degree path. On this shot, I'm going to pocket the 4-ball and send the cue ball around the 9-ball. If the cue ball is sliding when it strikes the object ball, it's going to travel at a 90-degree angle around the 9-ball. Now, if the 9-ball is here, I can make sure that when the cue ball strikes the object ball, it has some low spin on it, which will send it farther down the rail. A cue ball that is rolling when it strikes the object ball will be sent in this direction. Now, in order to send the cue ball around the 9-ball, we have to make sure both speed and where we strike the cue ball are in sync. So if I strike the cue ball in the same spot but increase my speed, now there is much more low spin on the cue ball, which results in a dramatically different cue ball path. As your center game improves, you won't worry as much about scratching on shots. For example, on this shot, a sliding cue ball heads toward this spot on the side rail. If the cue ball has a small amount of roll on it by the time it strikes the 9-ball, it may head toward the corner pocket. But if the cue ball has a lot of roll on it by the time it strikes the 9-ball, then it's going to head toward the end rail. A cue ball that has low spin on it by the time it strikes the 9 ball will strike well above the corner pocket. On this shot, the sliding cue ball path heads in this direction toward the side pocket. So I can use a rolling cue ball to send the cue ball here, or if the cue ball has low spin on it by the time it strikes the object ball, it will head in this direction. Or on shots like this, if he knows where a sliding cue ball will go, he now knows that he can use this sliding cue ball path with left spin. So when the cue ball strikes the cushion, the left spin will send the cue ball around the 5 ball and to the end rail for shape on the 4 ball. And through proper center ball training, he not only will know where the sliding cue ball path will go, but he's going to have the skills needed to properly execute the shot. Or as in this shot where the sliding cue ball path heads toward an object ball. Now he can simply alter the cue ball path with low spin. And at the same time he can use right spin to send the cue ball 2 rails toward the top side rail. Stunt shots are all about feel, since speed and where you strike the cue ball have to be in sync. And feel is a result of repetition. So when working with students, we shoot shots like this over and over again so they can develop a feel for speed and where they need to strike the cue ball. On this shot, a rolling cue ball heads in this direction. So if a player had a play position here, all they would have to do is play a nice rolling shot and they would have their position. But if the player thinks a rolling cue ball is going to travel in this direction, then they may use right spin when pocketing the object ball, which will send the cue ball away from their position area. Set up your own shots like this and mark the cushion on the second rail with a piece of chalk where you think the cue ball will hit. Then shoot the shot and see how close you are to hitting this mark. Developing a feel for where a rolling cue ball is going to track is important once we move on to side spin training. So if we look at this shot, I can use just a touch of left spin and send the cue ball here. Or just by using a touch of right spin, I can send the cue ball here. My cue ball control is more precise using side spin, since everything is now based off an accurate rolling cue ball path. One thing to remember about rolling shots is that when the object ball is close to the cushion, as in this example, an angle like this will send the cue ball to the other rail near the same area. As the angle starts to flatten, now the cue ball will be sent below this area on the other rail. And at this angle, the cue ball will track here between the first diamond and corner pocket. So if this was your shot in an 8-ball game, right away you know that if you pocket the 3 ball, the cue ball will strike the other rail in the same area. In this 8-ball game, if we can pocket the 2 ball, we know that the cue ball will track toward the other end rail near the same area. Knowing where rolling angles will take the cue ball is vital before the student can begin their side spin training. In this game of 8-ball, we're on the 3 ball, we need to play an angle on the 4 ball that will take the cue ball to the other side rail for position on the 8 ball. If we end up here at this angle, we know that the cue ball will probably be sent in this direction after pocketing the 4 ball. So at this angle, a player would have to use right spin to send it toward the target area. What we're looking for is a natural angle that doesn't require side spin. Then if we don't get our exact position, we can use side spin to get on the 8 ball. And side spin training is all about knowing exactly how much side spin you need to send the cue ball half a diamond, or 2 diamonds away from the natural rolling path. But a side spin shot like this has to be based off the proper natural rolling path of the cue ball. There are many players who play general areas knowing that they can use side spin to get back in line, but this way of playing is making the game harder than it needs to be. On this shot, we're going to first find our natural angle and try to land near this target. At this angle, we should be able to pocket the 4 ball and the cue ball should naturally float toward our position area. When working with students, we have them throw balls out on the table and just set up various rolling shots. The goal of each shot is to predict the path the cue ball will take off the object ball. You can use a piece of paper to indicate the path you think the cue ball will take, And the target only represents the path of the cue ball, so you don't have to land the cue ball on this target. Later though, as you improve at this drill, you can try to land the cue ball onto this target. When you're standing, place the target on the table, and then when you're examining the shot, you may have to adjust the target location. Don't shoot the shot until you're satisfied with where the target is. If you shoot a shot and your cue ball path isn't close to where you place the target, then set the shot up and shoot it over and over again to develop a feel for this type of angle and where it's taken the cue ball. Center ball training is about learning how to control the cue ball off the object ball and send it along a predetermined path. Side spin training is about learning how to control the cue ball with side spin once it strikes a cushion. So when you combine center ball training along with side spin training, you'll develop the skills needed to put that cue ball anywhere you want. We're going to place the ball in the jaws of the corner pocket and create 2 rows of balls extending from the pocket. The goal is to pocket the object ball and draw the cue ball back between the first 2 balls, which in this case is the 1 and 9 ball. The goal is to get any part of the cue ball into this area here. As you perform this drill, you want to avoid striking the balls on either side. Keep going until you can successfully draw the cue ball back 3 times in a row. Now try to draw the cue ball back to this area between the 2 and 10 ball. Once again, see if you can perform this successfully 3 times in a row. Once you complete this shot 3 times in a row, change your target area to the next 2 balls, the 3 and 11. Keep working your way up the row of balls until you get to the last row. Next, move the cue ball farther away. Once again, try to draw the cue ball between the first 2 balls 3 times in a row. After you work your way through the drill from this cue ball location, move the cue ball to here. At this distance, this drill becomes extremely difficult. You really need to take your time since a slight error in aim can cause the cue ball to go off course. Now we're going to begin half table pattern play. We're going to start with 3 balls and run them in order using only center, center low, and center high. And we can pocket the object balls in any of the 6 pockets, but our cue ball has to stay within this half of the table. Also, decide on which pocket you're going to shoot each ball into before you begin the run. If the cue ball crosses the halfway point, you have to start the run over. Removing this half of the table for the cue ball takes away a player's safety net, which means they have to be much more precise in their speed control. So this is our first pattern. Examine the layout and determine the best way to run out this rack in order, starting with ball in hand. And be very specific. For instance, not only pick the pocket for each ball, but figure out how you're going to strike the cue ball for each shot, and exactly where you want the cue ball to end up. If you need to pause the video, please do so now. And what I tell my students is that you never pick your pocket for the 1 ball until you decide what pocket you're going to play the 3 ball in. So you're basically working backwards from the 3 ball. Working backwards like this is really going to help your ability to run out, especially as we get into more complicated 8 ball and 9 ball patterns. For this pattern, it's pretty simple. We're going to shoot the 3 ball into this pocket. So what's the best way to get from the 2 ball to the 3 ball? Well, if the cue ball were here, all I would have to do is roll in the 2 ball and position on the 3 would be automatic. So this would be the ideal position for the 2 ball. Now, since we know where we need to be for the 2 ball, we now have to figure out the best way to get to this spot from the 1 ball. Now, a common mistake that many players make when playing position is playing position into an open area instead of using a rail. And here's what I mean. When I set this pattern up for my students, many of them will choose this method of shooting the 1 ball, where they try to follow the cue ball into our ideal position spot. And they usually end up striking the cue ball too easy, leaving themselves too much angle on the 2 ball. or they strike the cue ball too hard, leaving themselves with a flat angle on the 2-ball. Playing into an open area like this means that your window for position is rather small. Your speed control has to be almost perfect. So the easiest way to get from the 1 ball to this area is by shooting the 1 ball into the side pocket. And for this shot, we're going to use a rolling cue ball and come off the side rail. Now once the cue ball gets near the rail, we can now see that the window for position is much larger than when we were trying to roll the cue ball into an open area. Coming off a rail like this doesn't require perfect speed, and when the cue ball leaves the rail, it remains on the correct line for position. And as we discussed in the previous section, you have to develop a feel for where the rolling cue ball is going after contact with the object ball. So since I need to end up in this area, my cue ball will probably be coming off the rail around here after making the 1 ball. So if I make the 1 ball and hit my spot on the rail, even if I hit the cue ball too hard, it's still going to stay on the correct angle for the 2 ball. Now if you shoot this shot and you're hitting the rail way up here, that means you didn't have enough angle on the 1. And if your rolling cue ball ends up hitting the rail too far down, that means you gave yourself too much angle. The correct angle will allow you to shoot at near minimum speed and still get your position on the 2 ball. This type of shot is going to come up over and over again throughout the rest of this video. So practice this shot until you can hit your mark over and over again. So now when I run this pattern out, you can see that the angles are doing all the work for me. Meaning all I have to do is pocket the ball and the cue ball naturally travels for position on the next ball. Let's say you're playing 9 ball and you have to roll out. If you're playing a strong player, it's always a good idea to try and tie up a ball. By tying up a ball, it will be very difficult for your opponent to run the rack. But if you're playing an opponent that's much weaker than you are, always break out balls when you roll out. A pattern with no problem areas always favors the stronger player. I'm playing 9 ball and my opponent has left me safe on the 1. I don't have a really good kick on the 1 ball, and if I miss the 1 and give him ball in hand, he just needs to pocket the 1 and 2 ball and play the 3-9 combination to win the game. So in this situation, I'm going to pocket the 9 ball, but at the same time, I'm going to try and tie up a ball. Now my opponent will have a lot more work to do to win the game. Here's a shot you can try whenever the object ball is frozen or just off the rail, and the cue ball is directly across from it. If I strike the 1 ball full, the cue ball will be sent straight back to the other end of the table, leaving my opponent a tough shot. Now in this example, I'll be striking the object ball with left spin. So when the cue ball strikes the opposite end rail, the left spin will take the cue ball behind the 7 and 9. Here's another example of striking the object ball with left spin. The left spin takes the cue ball behind our obstacle balls for a safety. In this example, instead of hitting the object ball full, I'll be hitting the right side of the 2 ball, which sends the cue ball in this direction for a safety. In this example, I can't bank the 3 into the 9, but if I strike the right side of the 3 ball, the cue ball will be sent toward the lower left corner pocket, making the 9 ball. And this is a great shot to know if you don't have any other options. The shot works best when the object ball is close to the rail or frozen to the rail and the cue ball is directly across from it. Before trying the shot in a tournament or league match, practice it a few times to get a feel for it. Remember, being a strong player means learning all the shots and being able to execute them during a game situation. Okay, so here's the next pattern. Study the pattern and try to figure out the best way to run out the balls in order with ball in hand. The key shot here is getting the proper angle on the 2 to get on the 3 ball. Okay, so just like the first pattern, we're going to work backwards. I know I'll be shooting the 3 into this pocket, so now I need to find a good angle on the 2 ball that gives me shape on the 3. And right about here is a good angle. All I have to do is roll the 2 ball in, and my position on the 3 is automatic. Once again, the angle is doing all the work for me. So, how do I get to this area from the 1 ball? During a normal league or tournament game, many players would put the cue ball here, and they would use spin to drive the cue ball toward the side rail and out. And what usually happens is once that spin hits the second rail, it takes off and they end up too far away, or they miss hit the 1 ball and go crashing into the 2 ball. Or they put the cue ball here and they try to drift into this open area. And since their speed control has to be almost perfect, most of the time they either end up shooting too easy or too hard. Now I'm going to show you an easy way to get to this area just by hitting center on the cue ball. And it may not be easy for you at first, but once you get the hang of this shot, you'll be surprised at how well you can control the speed. So the key to this shot is to put the cue ball fairly close to the one ball, and really concentrate on trying to hit just a slice of the one ball. The first few times you try this shot, you'll probably hit too much of the one ball, sending the cue ball toward the middle of the table. And don't shoot this shot too quickly. Take your time and make sure that your aim is right on. Now as I run this pattern out, you can see that it doesn't take much of an effort on each shot. I'm just using the angles to help move the cue ball around the table for a position. Here's the third pattern. Study this pattern and try to figure out the best way to run them out in order with ball in hand. And once again, we'll work backwards from the 3-ball, and this is obviously the pocket we want to shoot the 3-ball in. So we now need to find the easiest way to get position on the 3-ball. If the cue ball ended up here, above the 2-ball pocket line, all I would have to do is pocket the 2 and shape on the 3 would be automatic. So what's the best way to get to this position area from the 1-ball? Well, I could put the cue ball here at an angle and try to draw the cue ball to this area, but I've ended up short and on the wrong side of the 2-ball pocket line. Trying to play position into an open area without using a rail requires excellent speed control. Too easy or too hard, and you may be left with a difficult situation. Now I'll show you an easy way to get your correct angle. Find the pocket line that goes through the side pocket and the 2-ball. This is the line you must cross to get the correct angle on the 2-ball. So I've marked the spot where the 2-ball pocket line meets the rail. Now I need to put the cue ball at the correct angle on the 1-ball so the cue ball will head toward this spot on the rail. If the cue ball can hit this spot on the rail, it should come off the rail and end up in my position zone. Now I'm on the correct side of the pocket line. So all I have to do is pocket the 2 and the cue ball will naturally head down to the end rail for position on the 3. And when this pattern is run out correctly, it takes very little effort. Here's the fourth 3-ball pattern. Once again, figure out the easiest way to run out the balls in order with ball in hand. The key shot is getting the correct angle on the 2 to get on the 3. Now here are 3 options players may choose when trying to run this pattern out. In the first option, the player would try to shoot the 1 and draw back for the 2 in the corner. But if they get a funny angle on the 2, they'll be left with a difficult shot to get position on the 3. Or they'll draw the cue ball back to play the 2-ball into the other side pocket. This option requires very good speed control and is considered very risky. Even if you can perform this shot successfully, it's not about being able to do it once or twice. It's about being able to perform this position shot consistently, especially when you're under pressure. The other option is to shoot the 1 and come off the rail for the 2-ball in the other side. Once again, this requires excellent speed control. Too softly or too hard and you may be in trouble. Remember, you have to play the pocket you picked for the 2-ball, so if you pick the side pocket, that's the pocket you have to make the 2-ball in. In order to figure out the easiest way to run the balls out, I need to work backwards from the 3-ball. But the 3-ball is between both corner pockets, so before I decide on which pocket I want for the 3, I need to examine where the 1 and 2 are. Just like the last pattern, if the cue ball crosses the 2-ball line, all I would have to do is pocket the 2 and shaping the 3 would be automatic. Now I'm going to pocket the 3 in the lower left corner pocket and the 2 in the right side pocket. So I'll show you an easy way to get to our position area from the 1-ball. I'm going to place the cue ball here. I'll shoot it a little below center and come off the other side rail for shape on the 2. And by coming off the other side rail, our position window is pretty large. I don't have to have perfect speed control. And since I don't need perfect speed control, my consistency on this position shot should be pretty high. Now once I'm here, it's just a matter of pocketing the 2-ball. So when you try this shot, make sure you're putting the cue ball fairly close to the 1-ball. And pay special attention to what part of the cue ball you are striking. If you strike extremely high in the cue ball, you'll hit lower on the other side rail. If you strike extremely low on the cue ball, you'll be hitting much higher up on the other side rail. Practice this shot until you can consistently get the proper angle on the 2-ball. Once you get the hang of this shot, it won't require much effort at all to run all 3 balls out. So here is our last 3-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out the pattern. The key shot here is getting the correct angle on the 2 to get on the 3. The first thing I'll look at is the 3-ball, and it looks like I'll be playing the 3-ball in this corner pocket. So how do I get position on the 3-ball from the 2-ball? Well, there are a couple different ways to get position on the 3 from the 2. The first one is to shoot the 1 and end up here on the 2-ball. Then we would just follow off the end rail and back up for position on the 3-ball. The problem with playing the pattern this way is that it's not a natural position shot, meaning you have to use a little bit of force to follow the cue ball off the end rail and back up toward the target zone. Plus, since we're restricted to half a table, our speed has to be pretty precise. Now I'm going to show you more of a natural position shot to get on the 3-ball. First, we'll put the cue ball here and cut the 1 ball in. If you shoot this shot correctly, you should end up in this area. Once you're here, it's just a matter of pocketing the 2 ball and your cue ball will naturally head to your target area. And on this shot, even if you strike the shot too firmly, you're still going to be okay. Your position window is much larger than the previous positional shot. So if you play the correct angles in this pattern, it won't take much effort at all to run all 3 balls. Here is the first 4-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out the pattern. Now that we're doing 4-ball layouts, you really have to be aware of your angles. So in this pattern, before I shoot the 1 ball, I'm going to be looking 3 balls ahead to the 4 ball. Obviously, I'll be pocketing the 4 ball into this pocket here, which means I'll need to play a position for the 3 ball around this area. Then I can just roll the 3 ball down for a position on the 4. So how do I get to this area from the 2 ball? One mistake that players make is they don't pay attention to pocket lines. For instance here, I've ended up on the other side of the 2 ball pocket line, so now I have to go off the end rail and then back up. And since we can't use spin, we're going to end up with a pretty big angle in the 3 ball, which means I'll have to go back and forth for shape on the 4. So by not paying attention to the 2 ball pocket line, I ended up with a tough shot on the 3 ball. This time I'm going to pay attention to the 2 ball line. If we look at the sliding cue ball line for the 2 ball, if the cue ball is sliding when it strikes the 2 ball, it's going to head close to the side pocket. So I need to make sure the cue ball is rolling when it strikes the 2 ball. And make sure when you shoot the 1 ball that you don't end up too close to the side rail. So practice running this pattern a few times. It's important that you start to understand how angles move the cue ball around the table, especially as we start getting into more complex patterns. Here is the next 4-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out the pattern. Pay close attention to where you need to be for the 3 ball. So once again, I'm going to work backwards from the 4 ball. I'm going to play the 4 in this pocket. So now I need to figure out how to get to this position zone from the 3 ball. Well, if the cue ball was near the end rail, all I would have to do is cut the 3 in and the cue ball would naturally head to this position zone. So the key to this rack is getting the cue ball close to the end rail after making the 2 ball. The easiest way to get to this area from the 2 ball is by playing position on the 2 with this angle here. If I can get this angle on the 2 ball, we can see that the sliding cue ball line heads in this direction and goes right around the 4 ball. Since the sliding cue ball line comes very close to striking the 4 ball, I'm going to make sure the cue ball has a hair of roll on it when it strikes the 2 ball. This way it's going to hit the rail sooner, missing the 4 ball. A slight angle on the 1 will allow me to slightly drift the cue ball toward the 2, which will give me the correct angle. Now sometimes when a player has a ball hanging in a pocket, they don't plan out their pattern as well as they should, and they usually end up with an awkward angle on the ball, which could lead to problems. When a ball is hanging in the pocket, make sure you take the time to plan out your pattern. Here's the third 4-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run the pattern. Pay close attention to the angle you'll need on the 2 ball. In this pattern, I start by looking at the 4 ball, and it looks like I'll be making it in this pocket. So my goal will be to try to get a straight in position shot on the 3 ball. Then all I have to do is stop the cue ball. So now I need to figure out how to get to this area from the 2 ball. The best way to get here would be for my cue ball to be on the in rail. Then I can just roll the 2 in and come off the side rail. If I end up short of the 3-ball pocket line, I can just roll the cue ball off the side rail for a position on the 4-ball. And if I end up above the 3-ball pocket line, I can just follow the cue ball off the in rail and back up. So I'm going to show you 4 different ways to get to the in rail from the 1-ball, and you have to become consistent at all 4 shots. So the first way to get to the in rail is to give yourself a slight angle on the 1, and use high action to roll the 1 into the corner and follow down to the in rail. The second way to get to the in rail is to place the cue ball here at a slight angle to the side pocket. Then I'll use a draw stroke to bring the cue ball to the in rail. The third way is the same type of shot, except I'll be shooting the 1-ball into the other side pocket. The fourth way to get to the in rail is to use a sliding cue ball and come off the side rail. Practice all 4 shots until you're consistent at all of them. Becoming a strong player means you have to be consistent at all types of shots. For instance, if you're playing 9-ball and the side pockets aren't available, you need to be able to follow the cue ball to the in rail. Or maybe the corner pocket isn't available, so you have to shoot the 1 in the side and drift down. If you struggle at any of these shots, write them down, make a note of it, and keep working on these shots until they're no longer a problem. Here's the 4th 4-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out the pattern. The key to this pattern is getting on the 2-ball. So first I'll look at the 4-ball and it looks like I'll be making it in this pocket. So now I need to figure out where I need to be on the 3 to get on the 4. But before I do that, I need to examine the 2-ball since it looks like it might be a problem ball. Since the 4-ball is blocking it from going into the bottom left-hand corner pocket, I'm going to have to shoot the 2-ball into the top left corner pocket, which means my cue ball will end up around this area after pocketing the 2. And if I end up with this angle in the 3, I can use draw on the cue ball to come back to the side rail. Or I can use a sliding cue ball, shoot the 3 in, and have the cue ball come straight back up. Now my main concern is getting on the 2-ball. The 4-ball is blocking this pocket, so I'm going to have to play the 2 in the top left-hand corner pocket. If I can just get near this 2-ball line with the cue ball, I should be fine. Now when many players attempt to get on this 2-ball, they'll try to follow the 1-ball and have the cue ball end up near the 2-ball line. And as mentioned earlier, when you try to roll the cue ball into an open area like this without using the rails, your speed control has to be excellent. If you come up short in this shot, or if you end up going a couple inches too far, you're going to be left with an extremely difficult shot. Now I'm going to show you the proper way to get on the 2-ball. I'm going to place the cue ball at a slight angle on the 1 and follow the cue ball to the in rail. And as you can see, once the cue ball leaves the in rail, I have a shot on the 2-ball. My margin for error is much greater. If I end up straight in, I can stop the cue ball. If I end up with an angle, I can just roll the 2 in and have the cue ball come off the rail. Practice this position shot on the 2-ball until you can consistently come off the rail at the proper angle. This is one of the shots that will be coming up over and over again in upcoming patterns. Here's the final 4-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out all 4 balls. The key to this run is getting from the 1 to the 2-ball. So working backwards again from the 4, it looks like I'll be making it in the top left corner pocket. So if I can get here on the 3, all I would have to do is pocket the 3 and position on the 4 would be automatic. Getting to this position area for the 3 means I can't have much of an angle when I shoot the 2-ball. If I can end up right around here for the 2-ball, I can just follow it past the 3-ball pocket line. But if I end up with an angle on the 2, I'll have to keep the cue ball up here. And then I'll have to use high action to force the cue ball to the in rail, then to the side rail. If I get too much angle in the 3, I'll get into trouble since I won't be able to force the cue ball to the side rail. Remember, we're not using spin, so our angles have to be right on. So the key to this rack is getting from the 1 to this area here on the 2. Now there are 2 ways to get to this area. The first way is placing the cue ball here and coming off the side rail back toward the 2-ball. While this way will work, I'm going to show you a better way to get position on the 2-ball. Put the cue ball here at a slight angle on the 1 and strike the cue ball below center. The goal is to barely hit the other side rail so we're straight in on the 2-ball. If struck correctly, you're not going to be hitting the cue ball that hard at all. It won't take much of an effort to move the cue ball toward your position area. This is another shot that will be coming up over and over again, so keep practicing until you have it down. And your goal is to barely come off the other side rail. When a strong player is kicking at a ball, there are many times when they would like to stick the cue ball where the object ball is, especially if there's another ball nearby that can act as a blocker. For instance, in this shot, my opponent left me safe on the 2-ball, and it's fairly close to the rail, which provides a good opportunity to try and stop the cue ball where the 2-ball is. If I strike it correctly, I can hide the cue ball behind the 7-ball. And when I shoot these shots, I'm going to be striking the cue ball above center. And before you shoot these shots, try to visualize the angle of the shot. This will help you in determining where you'll need to strike the end rail to hit the object ball full. And here's another example where I'll be hitting the cue ball above center. And this shot won't require much force, we just need to make sure the 2-ball reaches the other side rail to leave my opponent safe. Now as the angle of the shot begins to widen, instead of striking the cue ball above center, I'm going to be striking the cue ball with draw. And once again, I'm going to try and strike the object ball full. If I can do that, I can kill the cue ball and get a leave. This time the shot is farther away, and we can see that the angle is pretty wide. So once again, I'm going to be using draw. There are many times, however, when you don't want to strike the object ball full. For instance, in this situation here, I'm hooked on the 3-ball, and if I go off the end rail and strike the 3-ball full, I'll probably leave my opponent a shot. But if I can hit this part of the 3-ball, the cue ball will head in this direction and may end up behind these 2 balls, leaving my opponent safe. Here's another example of hitting just part of the object ball. If I can come off the side rail and hit this part of the 1-ball, the cue ball will head to this end rail and hopefully get behind the 9 and 6 ball for a leave. And even if you don't leave them safe, whenever you strike part of an object ball coming off a rail like this, both balls will always head in separate directions, so at least you're putting distance between them. When you're kicking at a ball, there are a couple things you have to remember. For instance, let's say we're kicking at the 7-ball. I'm going to kick at this ball with a medium stroke, and I'll be hitting the other side rail right around here where this chalk is. And we can see that I made a solid hit on the 7-ball. Now I'm going to kick at the 7-ball again, and once again I'm going to aim at the chalk on the rail. But this time I'm going to strike the cue ball a little harder. And now we can see that by striking the cue ball harder, it shortened the angle and missed the 7-ball. So when you're kicking at balls, always remember that the harder you shoot the shot, the shorter the angle will be. Many players come up short in kick shots, and one of the main reasons for this is that they are striking the cue ball way too hard. If you do need to strike a kick shot firmly, change your aiming point on the rail. For instance, in this kick shot, my aiming point is right here. Since I'll be striking the cue ball firmly, I'm going to change my aiming point to here, and now I should be able to strike the object ball. And there are times when balls are blocking your normal path to the object ball, as in this situation here. The 5-ball is near the pocket, but I don't have a good path to get to it since its 7, 8, and 9 are right in the way. So in this case, I would aim about a half diamond away from the corner pocket and use low action. The low action pulls the cue ball away from the end rail and straightens out the cue ball's path, taking it toward the 5-ball. In this final example, my opponent hooked me on the 5-ball, and it's near the pocket, so a good kick shot should be able to pocket the ball. And from here, my normal angle to get to this corner pocket is right here, but the 7 and 9 are in the way. So if I change my aim to the 3rd diamond, the cue ball is naturally going to head toward the middle of this end rail. But if I use low action, I can pull the cue ball away from its natural angle and head toward this corner pocket. So now I'm going to show you a technique for cutting in balls that are extremely close to each other, within 1 cube of chalk. For instance, in this game of 8-ball, I left myself this shot on the 8-ball. And as you can see, the 8-ball and cue ball are extremely close to each other. And it's going to require a thin hit on the 8 to pocket it in the side. Once you learn this technique I'm about to show you, these shots will start to become much easier. So here's what I'm doing. First, I'm choking up on the cue stick, and I'll be gripping the cue a little tighter than normal. Now, before I come down on the shot, I locate the space between both balls and find where both edges of the balls line up. And that's what I focus on as I get down on the table. I don't take my eyes off this area as I lower my head. So when I'm down on the shot, I keep my focus on the edges of both balls. Next, I'll be placing the tip on the side of the cue ball closest to the object ball. So in this case, I would be using low right. You can also use center right, but you're going to get a lot more cue ball action after the cue ball hits a rail. So when I'm aiming, my focus is trying to strike the object ball as thin as possible. And a mistake a lot of players make on shots like this is when they come down on the shot, they don't focus on the edges of both balls. And without being able to see the edges, the player is more or less guessing when they are aiming, making the shot much more difficult. If you can learn to come down on these shots, focusing on the edges of both balls, it's going to take a lot less effort to pocket the ball. And remember to place your tip on the side of the cue ball closest to the object ball. This will allow you to aim the tip at the part of the object ball that you need to strike. Use a little extra pressure when you grip the cue. Your backstroke will be short, but you'll be accelerating through the cue ball. And once you get this shot down, you'll be surprised how much easier it is to pocket the ball, no matter how close it is to the cue balls. Here's the first 5-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out the pattern. The key shot here is getting from the 2 to the 3. This pattern is all about getting on the proper side of the pocket lines. So let's work backwards from the 4-ball. Now I can play position for the 4-ball in either side pocket, but since the 3-ball is on this side of the table, I'm going to pocket the 4 into this side pocket. So when I get on the 3-ball, I don't want a big angle like this, since it's going to be difficult to hold the cue ball for the 4 in this side. Ideally, I would like to get close to the 3-ball line. If I was here, I can just draw the cue ball back above the 4-ball line. Then once I'm here in the 4, I can just roll the 4 in and I'll get my position on the 5-ball. So the key shot here is to get the proper angle on the 2 so I can end up here for the 3-ball. So let's examine the 1-ball shot. If we were to shoot the 1-ball into this pocket, we can see that the 2-ball pocket line goes right through the ghost ball. And here's a shot you'll need to know. Place the cue ball at a slight angle on the 1, and the goal here is to have the cue ball follow the 2-ball pocket line. Try putting a piece of chalk on the 2-ball pocket line and see if you can roll the cue ball toward the piece of chalk. And you'll want to keep the cue ball pretty close to the 1-ball. In this shot, you'll be striking the cue ball right around center. Try to avoid crossing the line on either side. So put the cue ball close to the 1-ball again at a slight angle, and this time place a piece of chalk where you want the cue ball to end up. The goal is to make sure you end up on the left side of the pocket line. So keep practicing the shot until you develop a feel for where the cue ball is going. Also try putting the cue ball farther away from the 1-ball. If your cue ball keeps crossing the line this way, then you're going to have to start striking the cue ball lower. Okay, so we've ended up on the proper side of the 2-ball line. Now if we look at the sliding cue ball line, the cue ball is going to head in this direction if it's sliding when it strikes the 2-ball. But that's too close to the 3-ball. So in order to get to my position zone up here, I'm going to have to make sure the cue ball has a bit of roll on it when it strikes the 2-ball. Okay, so let's say the cue ball ends up here on the 3-ball. The first thing I need to do is find the 4-ball pocket line. I need to make sure the cue ball ends up above this line to give me the angle to get on the 5-ball. So I've ended up above the 4-ball line. The problem is that I'm just barely above the line, so I don't have that much of an angle in the 4. For example, if I just rolled the 4-ball in, you can see that the cue ball is going to hit pretty high up on this rail. So for me to get position on the 5-ball, at this angle, I'm going to have to strike the cue ball pretty firmly to send it over to the side rail. And whenever you're striking the cue ball this firmly, it's really easy to lose control of the cue ball. This time when I shoot the 3-ball, I'm going to end up farther above the 4-ball pocket line. Just by putting a little more distance between the cue ball and pocket line means I can strike the 4-ball much easier to get position on the 5-ball. Here is the second 5-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out the pattern. The key to this rack is getting the proper angle on the 2-ball. So once again, we're going to be working backwards from the 4-ball. And it looks like I'll be pocketing the 4 in the bottom left corner pocket. So I'm going to need an angle on the 3 that will give me my position on the 4-ball. So if I ended up here in the 3-ball, I could just shoot it in with center low, and the cue ball would come back to this area for position on the 4-ball. The easiest way to get to this position zone is if the cue ball ends up here on the 2-ball. Then I can just roll the 2-ball in the corner, and the cue ball will naturally head to my position zone. So when I shoot the 1-ball, I want to end up in this position zone for the 2-ball. The ideal angle would be right below the 2-ball line, but if I get straight in on the 2-ball, I should still be fine. I can just softly roll the 2 into the pocket and still get my angle on the 3. If I end up right above the 2-ball pocket line, I'll have to force the cue ball to the in rail and back up using high action. If I end up too far above the 2-ball pocket line, I'm going to be in trouble. I can no longer strike the 2-ball with force follow, since the cue ball is now heading toward the 3-ball. So now I'm going to show you the easiest way to shoot the 1-ball and get our cue ball to this position zone. I'm going to play the 1-ball on this side and use high action. And when I shoot this shot, I want to pick a spot on the opposite rail that I need to hit in order to get to my position zone. This shot requires a nice stroke using high action, and it also requires putting the cue ball at the correct angle on the 1-ball. Now if you try this and you end up too far down on the side rail, that means you had too much angle on the 1-ball. Keep shooting this shot until you can consistently get to this area. Remember, this shot is all stroke and not power. As long as you get your high action, it won't take much to propel the cue ball to this position zone. So if your cue ball lands around here, now it's just a matter of rolling in the 2-ball, and you should get the angle you need to pocket the 3 and get shape on the 4. And when you shoot the 3-ball, you're going to be aiming either center or below center. And remember, you can't cross the halfway point on the table, so your speed control has to be very good. Keep practicing from different angles until you can start stopping the cue ball around this area. Remember, the lower you hit on the cue ball, the closer to this side rail you're going to end up. Here is the third 5-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out the pattern. Pay close attention to where you need to be for the 2-ball and the 4-ball. So working backwards from the 4-ball, looks like I'll be pocketing the 4 in the side pocket, since the 3-ball is on this side of the table. And when I shoot the 3-ball, I'll need the cue ball to end up above the 4-ball pocket line. That way when I shoot the 4-ball, the cue ball will head down table for the 5-ball. So if I can end up near the side rail in the 3-ball, I'm just going to use a stun follow shot to move the cue ball above the 4-ball line. So anywhere on this side rail should be good position for the 3-ball. But if we look at the 2-ball, there isn't much room for error. When I shoot the 1, I need to get the proper angle on the 2-ball. That way I can shoot the 2-ball and move the cue ball around the 5-ball. If I ended up here on the 2-ball, I can just use a sliding cue ball to move it around the 5 for shape on the 3. So the goal is to get to this area from the 1-ball. And there are a couple good ways to get here. But first, I'm going to show you a mistake many players make when trying to get shape on the 2-ball. They'll put the cue ball here and try to follow the 1 down for perfect position. And as we discussed earlier, trying to roll the cue ball into a position area without using a rail requires excellent speed control. I'm going to show you 2 ways to get position where our position window is much larger. The first way is to send the cue ball toward a target on the side rail. And once the cue ball hits the rail, it starts moving along the correct angle on the 2-ball, which has given us a much bigger positional window. Figure out where you need to strike the rail at and put a piece of chalk there. Practice shooting this shot until you can consistently hit your mark on the side rail. The other way to get position is to put the cue ball here at a slight angle on the 1-ball. Now you'll be using draw to bring the cue ball back to the side rail and out. Once again, mark the rail where you want the cue ball to hit. Keep practicing this shot until you're comfortable hitting your mark. And make sure you don't end up too close to the side rail. Okay, so now we've ended up here in the 2-ball, and as we learned earlier, if the cue ball is sliding when it contacts the object ball, it's going to continue at a 90-degree angle. And whatever angle the cue ball heads to the rail at is the same angle it's going to leave the rail at. So looking at the 2-ball, I know right away that a sliding cue ball will move the cue ball around the 5-ball for position on the 3-ball. And when you try this shot, if your cue ball is hitting the 5-ball after it strikes the rail, that means your cue ball was rolling by the time it got to the 2-ball. Try the shot again at the same speed, but this time aim a little bit lower on the cue ball. Your cue ball should make a V shape around the 5-balls. Now, we've ended up here in the 3-ball, and I know that I need to shoot the 3 and roll forward 2 or 3 inches. To perform the shot correctly, you need to shoot center on the cue ball and hit the shot firmly. If you're getting too much roll, you need to shoot the shot again at the same speed but aim a little bit lower on the cue ball. You should be able to shoot the shot and have the cue ball roll forward a couple inches. And practice this shot from different distances. This is the shot that you'll see top players shoot all the time. You have to develop a feel for it though, so make sure you put the time in and practice. So in this pattern, like the previous patterns, it's all about staying on the correct side of the pocket lines, letting the angles do the work for you as you move around the table. And that's the real key to becoming a strong run-out player, is knowing what side of the pocket lines you need to be on. Here is a fourth 5-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out the pattern. This is a difficult layout that requires very precise angles and speed control. So in this layout we have a problem ball, and that's a 3-ball, which is next to the 5-ball. While the 3-ball is makeable in this corner, I'm going to need the proper angle on it to get on the 4-ball. If I can end up here just below the 3-ball pocket line, I can roll the 3 in and get my position on the 4-ball. But if I end up straight in on the 3 or above the 3-ball pocket line, it's going to be very difficult to get on the 4-ball. So now I need to figure out how to get to this position spot from the 2-ball. If I can get here on the 2-ball, we can see that if the cue ball is sliding when it strikes the 2-ball, it will head in this direction. But if the cue ball has a small amount of roll on it when it strikes the 2-ball, it will head to our position zone for the 3-ball. So now we need to figure out how to get to this spot from the 1-ball. So here is the 1-ball pocket line that goes into the top left-hand corner pocket. If my cue ball were here at a slight angle, I could strike it with a sliding cue ball and end up in my position area for the 2-ball. My goal is to keep the cue ball close to the 2-ball. The closer I am on the 2, the easier it's going to be for me to get to my target area on the side rail. So now we have the correct angle on the 2 to get our position on the 3. This shot, however, requires a very precise hit. If I end up anywhere in this area, I'm going to be in trouble. This is the type of shot that separates the strong players from the weaker players. If you practice this shot, mark the spot where the 3-ball line meets the rail. Try to end up just below this line. Sticker this shot up and shoot it over and over again so you can develop a feel for it. And as we mentioned earlier, the ideal angle is just below the 3-ball line. Now we can just roll the 3-ball in and come off the other side rail for our position on the 4-ball. Ideally, I would like to end up in this area for the 4-ball. Now if the cue ball is sliding when it strikes the 4, it will come almost straight across the table toward the 5-ball. So when I shoot this shot, I need to make sure the cue ball has some draw on it when it reaches the 4-ball. Also, I'm not going to try to roll perfectly into my position area. The danger in this is under-hitting the 4-ball and coming up short. What I'm going to do is strike the 4-ball more firmly and come off the other rail. This gives me a large position window for the 5-ball. See if you can run out this rack 2 or 3 times in a row the proper way. This run out is all about controlling the speed and path of the cue ball. Here is the final 5-ball pattern. Study the layout and figure out the best way to run out the pattern. This pattern relies heavily on using the sliding cue ball line. So working backwards from the 4-ball, it's not obvious yet which pocket I'll be shooting the 4-ball into. So let's look at the 2 and 3-ball. If we look at the 2-ball, it looks like I'll be playing it in the bottom left corner pocket. And if I have a slight angle on it, it's going to be easy to play shape for the 3-ball on the side. And if I can end up above the 3-ball pocket line, I can use a sliding cue ball to play shape for the 4-ball. So now I know I need to get here for the 2-ball, since this is the angle I need to get on the 3-ball. But now I need to figure out the best way to get to this area from the 1-ball. One way to get here from the 1-ball is to draw the 1 back at a slight angle. While this is doable, there is a slightly better way to get here from the 1-ball. Put the cue ball here at a slight angle and use the sliding cue ball. The cue ball will naturally travel along the correct line to our position area. And when you shoot this, put the cue ball about a ball away from the 1. This shot just requires a soft center ball stroke. Keep practicing this shot until you can consistently stop the cue ball in this area. Your ideal position will be on this side of the 2-ball pocket line. So the 3-ball pocket line goes to the rail here, so this now becomes my target when I shoot the 2-ball. If I can strike this spot on the rail, I'm going to end up on the correct side of the 3-ball pocket line. If we look at the sliding cue ball line off the 3-ball, it's going to take the cue ball in this direction if the cue ball is sliding when it strikes the 3-ball. And ideally, I would like to end up in this area for the 4-ball. If I had this angle, all I would have to do is pocket the 4 and position on the 5 would be automatic. And when I shoot the 3, I just don't want to roll into this area and take the chance of coming up short. Instead, I'm going to play the cue ball off the end rail and back up, which is going to give me a larger position window. And shooting the 4-ball is just a matter of sliding the cue ball and having the cue ball come straight back up for the 5-ball. Set this pattern up and practice trying to run it out the correct way. In the next section, we're going to begin full table pattern play, so it's important that you start developing a feel for the sliding and rolling cue ball.
You know, this world is full of pool players that are good at one pocket, 9-ball, and banks. And I've often wondered, out of all the great players today, who will make it to the top of the ranks? Yeah, we have Ephraim Reyes, Earl Strickland, Ralph Souquet, Allison Fisher, and Jeanette Lee still chalking their cues. Lord, I wonder who's going to fill their cues. Only time will tell, and it won't be long. George Jones, who's going to fill their shoes, inspired me to write this song. Who's going to fill their cues? Who's going to stand up tall? Who's gonna win the Derby, 1 pocket banks and 9-ball? Who's gonna shoot their hearts out to get to me and you? Lord, I wonder who's gonna fill their cues? Who's gonna be the next great players inducted into the Billiards Hall of Fame? Lord, I wonder what's going to be their names. Yeah, God bless the boys, Louis Roberts, Cole Dixon, and Danny Medina. Much too soon they left this world in tears, and Go St. Louis, Louis still echoes through the years. You know, the heart of this game has brought many countries and religions together to be friends. But one day, just like the players that left us, you're playing pool in this world that's gonna end. Who's gonna fill their cues? Who's gonna stand up tall? Who's gonna win the Derby, 1 pocket banks and 9-ball? Gonna shoot their hearts out to get to me and you? Lord, I wonder who's gonna fill their cues? Oh, I wonder who's gonna fill their cues?